strategy for the long-term plan process and do really engage with the long-term plan. So Jane and the team will put together a bit of a PowerPoint presentation, talk through early engagement, all those bits and pieces, and get some direction for that moving forward. But what we'll do is start off with a cutter here and kick us off, and then we'll get into the Jane part for about an hour and a half-ish, and then we'll get into maritime after that. So, tu tau mai I ronga, tu tau mai I raro, tu tau mai I roto, tu tau mai I waho. Kia tū I te muri tū, te muri ora ki te katoa, huie, mia huie, tai ki. Thanks, Jane. Take it away.
Thank you, Masters.
Just, we're online, aren't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
online.
And thank you. I know there's a few people away, so thank you very much for your attendance. We're just going to talk you through. Jane and I will be tag teaming through the. No.
I was just going to say, yeah, John and David are apologies today. So.
Yeah, and we've got another 4 that are on the.
Yeah. So just like recognise.
So we've got exactly half.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, good to go. I can't comment on that.
You've got the cream.
Okay. So we'll start off with a deep philosophical question. Why are we here? So today's purpose is very much about shaping what direction in pre-engagement you'd like to do. We're not presenting a finished approach, of course. We're just workshopping this through, and we want to land something that works for you in terms of visibility, in terms of your expectations, and the value that we can add through this process. Importantly, this is something that reflects the current environment we're operating in, and as we're aware, these are unprecedented times. Okay, next up is what is pre-engagement? We're deliberately positioning this as listening and learning. Obviously, it happens prior to the formal consultation, but how we explain that externally really matters, especially right now. People will be asking, why are we hearing from Environment Southland? Aren't they doomed? Aren't they on their way out? Why are they hearing from us? It's really important that we get the message across that our function, the function we perform for our community, continues, and that's why their input is as important now, if not more important, than it's ever been. There's also a risk that communities can see this as sort of consultation before consultation, which can add to that sort of consultation fatigue, and we'll talk about a bit of that later on. That's a big worry. It's a worry for us in terms of our ratepayers. And those groups that we go to in terms of our consultation as well. There's only so many times you can keep knocking on the same doors. So we've got to make sure this is a good process, a thorough process, but also a streamlined process. So that's the balance that we're trying to make all the way through. What is pre-engagement not? Obviously, we're not putting up preferred options at this stage. We're not making decisions, but we are looking for a steer. And it's not a replacement for the statutory stuff that we have to do. And it's certainly not a vote or referendum. Okay, next up, pre-engagement and the LTP. So there's obviously what this might look like is around, we're going to be testing the waters. We've got values, we've got trade-offs, we've got early thinking. What are we dialing up? What are we dialing down? We need to target. We've got industry sectors. We've got key groups, as I've mentioned. We've got iwi. It's important that we make sure that we treat all of those as equal partners and make sure that we get their feedback on where we should be going. And it's going to strengthen the quality of options. So this very much sets the scene for what goes out in that formal consultation. Right, next up, who does what? You're ahead of me, Adrian. No, you are. Roles and responsibilities. So obviously, you guys are the decision makers. You set the direction of the long-term plan. And it's your job, obviously, probably the hardest part of all, which is to balance those competing views. And you hear it all the time. You'll hear it all the time out in the community. It would be the spotlight would be particularly on you through this process. For us as staff, obviously, we're going to design and deliver that engagement program. We're going to provide advice. We're going to provide assurance, and we're going to translate those insights into different options to put up. One of the key things about today is finding out how you want to be involved. So it's up to you. You know, it's a scale. You know, you can be a bit involved. You can't be not involved, but you could be a bit involved, and you could be very, very much involved. It's entirely up to you. But at a governance level, obviously, not so much as an operational level, of course. Right, I'm going to now pass on to Jane, and I think it's really important sometimes, you know, as we know, to look forward. It's really important to look back, see what we've done before, see what we can learn from 2024.
Absolutely.
Over to you, Jane.
Cool. Yep.
Quick
One question. The period that we are today designing for,
Yes.
what is the window? And I'm just trying to get my head around what months will this pre-engagement be taking place? When's the cut-off date that we will stop talking to our community as we then move to the next part of the design, LTP design process?
Yep. We do have a slide on that coming up, but it is a relatively short window, to be honest, and the time frame that we're looking at is through winter. We've got some considerations with that in mind, and obviously there's a lot of moving parts with the Head Start pathway process and all those things happening. So we're looking at around mid-August is when we would be looping back.
Finishing by mid-August?
Yeah,
Somewhere around the 19th of August.
yeah, so start of July and then ending around mid-August. Yeah, that's so that it can be the most useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Good to clarify that. Cool. Okay, so looking back, last time our pre-engagement was focused on helping people understand the value of flood protection infrastructure, what it does, and also how it is funded. So we had really strong activity across events, digital channels, targeted conversations. One of the key things that we did was we met the people where they were. So through summer events, December and January, field days, A&P shows, we heavily attended those events. We asked really focused questions about priorities and what the willingness to pay for improved protection was in the community. And then we fed those insights back to councillors, and that helped inform the thinking ahead of formal consultation, which was undertaken from March to April. And then we also were in conversations with territorial authorities, key stakeholders, talking about proposed changes to the way that we rate.
Now, out of the 6 of you, 5 of you were on council then. Roger wasn't, but Roger was obviously around the community and may well have picked up some of the how we got on. Really, what we want to delve into now is, did last time feel useful? What worked, what didn't work, or did it just feel like a bit of noise from your perspective? So casting your mind back a couple of years, what do you remember about that? And what good bits can we take out and retain and build on? And which bits do we need to discard? Or it might just have all sort of passed over you. So, Eric?
I'm just sort of thinking out loud, but I think that the big issue for me that I recall is that we spend a lot of time justifying why we're doing things rather than having that kind of accepted universally. And so what's the best way we can do this should be the argument, not why do we do this? And there needs to be some definition around that so we don't waste time, I think, is probably the point that I would instantly pick up on.
Some observations were, because it's very much a blur, my memory of that is a bit fuzzy, but what I would observe is that some of the big issues you just touched upon on the lead up to this was things like funding for the Kanoa co-investment, the change to our rating system. And as you look back, those things have occurred. How much pain have we inflicted on our wider community in the process of getting there? I'm not absolutely certain how you'd rate that or measure that, but the fact that we've actually realised the changes that we thought were needed. Now, what I was reflecting on, they may not have been what the community asked us for. So what I'm suggesting is maybe you can ask the community what they think, what they value, but in terms of specific actions, maybe they are not in a position to necessarily confirm specifics that we should be investing in. And, and I, ahead of this, have got a list of things that I think might want to be considered within an LTP. And so maybe within targeted, no, I'll pause there. We'll talk about it.
The hardest thing, as you fully aware about any consultation, any engagement, is you ask somebody what they think, they give you their opinion, you go down a different route for whatever reason, evidence-based, majority, and they say, what was the point of that? You didn't listen. The hardest part is always emphasising back and closing that loop and saying, look, we did listen to your viewpoint. In the end, we went with a different option, and these are the reasons why. And that's the bit that gets missed time and time again. And that's something that we're going to be very focused on this time around.
So perhaps the deduction is, I'm not sure to what degree we did it last time, but targeted or asking on what do you think on this particular topic? Is the secret to getting them to zero in on the things that we are most interested in and understanding and advancing.
I think for me, because it was the first time in, it was a blur, very similar to Phil. But the things that really matter out there are actually getting some things done that are visually done.
Yeah.
And I don't think we were very good at that, of following right through to getting some of the things that our constituents sort of wanted done. And I would go back, and this is going to kill everybody, gravel.
In the minutes, that was 19 minutes. If we just make a note.
But, we need to be seen to be doing things.
Yeah, we do.
So to follow that then, part of the conversation needs to be about what we have achieved.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to Alistair's point, I guess some of our constituents won't realise how long it takes to do the thing that they asked us to do. That's the actual thing we do. So there's a part of the conversation is about actually, you might never noticed, but this is what we have got done, or this is where we are in the process to getting that thing done.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say was, being where the people are is really good.
Yeah.
And I know that's a tremendous burden on the team, because they have to be all over the place in their weekends or in their evenings. But it is really effective, because people are not as willing to go to a thing that they weren't already going to. And that game, the Snakes and Ladders, has never ceased to be popular with many generations, actually. Probably needs a refresh or something similar, but as a kind of quick, easy activity, it was really effective, I thought.
So to just take on that point, and hopefully I already know the answer to this one, but just checking our attendance at those community events, things like field days, A&P shows, etc. We think that's an important key element of this. Is that what you're reinforcing that approach? Yeah.
Yes, but
yes,
the season that we're engaging in, there's no events on in the field day kind of A&P show setting. So.
No, but there will be other community events.
And the mall in town is being used a lot for all sorts of everything from fashion shows to getting cars, and you probably get a tractor in there if you wanted.
And punters almost expect it now when they go there, because there's so much going on there.
So and as far as reaching an untapped number of our constituents.
Yeah.
That's, as much as I hate to promote them all because I'm philosophically opposed to it, that's where you're going to get a whole lot of the Invercargill city residents.
Yeah.
As opposed to the rural, the agricultural people. And there are 52,000 people that live in Invercargill. So, and they're not people that we normally get to. So,
yeah, we've got a real problem in regards to, engaging at the moment. We're competing with different people's thought processes at the moment. We've got sit with amalgamations and all these, and I would believe that if you went out there at the moment, they wouldn't know which part of the conversation we're dealing with. What are we talking around? I look, reflecting on all those absolutely important crank up days, all these things, AMPs, everything, they're all summer.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you come in the winter, people don't want to talk, they're just trying to stay warm, get home. But I don't know the answer. I'm just saying, and even in the rural area, unless you say, right, 7 o'clock in a hall after a tea, come down and have a yarn. But I don't know, and there will be those questions, why are you doing this? We're sorting out structures. So there's more questions, why? The one thing I am finding out is how little the community knows what councils do, and even how little, and I'll say this nicely, how other councils know what other councils are doing too. And so you have a basis, the majority of the basis will say, get the bill, I pay it, and I might not be happy with it, but I actually don't know what I'm getting for that money. I just see it as a burden. So councils trying to explain what they do is it seems to be exceptionally hard. Unless you go knock on everyone's door and sit down and have a cup of coffee and explain a pavement or see the river running down and seeing flood banks or whatever. Very visual at the moment is Gore and the river works there. Everybody sees it.
Yeah.
Drive no complaining about mud on the road, all that, but they know where there's something being done.
Yeah.
And it's actually been really positive. But in that same context, for some reason, I would say the local liaison committee don't know what work we're doing there. We're in a meeting with that in Alistair Hall. That the chair's saying, they don't know the numbers, they don't, and I'm going, now I'm not saying it's our fault, but you go, this is really basic stuff, having to explain. Have you seen the map? No. They thought that was all the work one side was getting done. They're talking about the $18 million. So it's real comms, trying to work out how do you guide people through and say, this is just part of the work, 5-year programs. And they get, once you sit down and explain it, oh yeah, okay. So that's where I'm saying holding, every person's coffee table and telling them what we do, because a lot of people don't know what councils do. They do get a rates bill. And that's why we're having the amalgamation discussion, generally.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, but we've got so much going on now. We've got 2 different processes could be happening with the amalgamation discussion. Then everybody's going out with the LTP or annual plans and then your LTP. It's highly confusing for the public.
And that's where that community fatigue really comes in.
Because people are tired. They don't. They're just getting on with life if they have to. Oh, you guys sort it out. But it's so I'm not. This is the problem. It's a problem, and but this is part of the problem too. So how do we engage? How do we get people to understand what we do?
Getting you guys out there is really important, and we've talked about come and have a pie and a pint with Jeremy, and you'll be set up somewhere, and not you don't have to have a pint with every break, but
I'm sure we
My
do.
wife says,
Less we could
enjoy that.
but going to where the people are.
Well, it is, but I think reflecting, I went to Marai and I've seen at field days and all those things. Actually, it's really good. You're out there in the community, you've been seen. To come along and engage, and people do engage with the AMP shows. So, and that's start. That's what we've got to do anyway. Be seen, and reaching a few people that do come and get ask a question. but it's just probably highly confusing. At the moment with everything that's going on. And so I'm not giving you an answer, I'm just saying that's the bubble we live in at the moment. I'm trying to work it out myself.
And almost in our pre-engagement materials, the first part needs to be, why are we doing this, doesn't it? It needs to actually set that right, very simple terms, set out, you know, why are we asking you this?
You look, and to give an example, and no disrespect to leaders around in our community, but you know, there's even a bit of debate on social media about the Reti catchment. How do we split that? You know, can we split it? Or, and you go, don't you understand what we do? They're talking about river management, and that's how the council's arguing over it. You know, and you know, you'd sit down and talk to them, and they, oh yeah, we get it. But if we can't reach them, we're reaching the rest of the community. So it happens at all levels. That's what I'm saying. And we want people.
I think one of the things I found quite successful, whether it was or wasn't, was these drop-in sessions where you didn't have many people, but you got to the tin tacks of what was going on with some. So maybe we should target the important people in the district, and they can then disseminate that information out. And even if it is a beer with Jeremy, as long as he's shouting, it's fine.
Yes.
But it's just to get that message across.
Yeah, but it's those key people in any community, isn't it? And they're the ones the key influencers, to use a modern word, and they might be the person that's pumping the gas or the person in the dairy, you know. But the people that have big influence in a community, and you use the word important, maybe not. Maybe the most highly connected people.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah.
I went to, sorry.
You're okay.
I went to, I heard the GDC were doing one down Main Street. So like a river, I'm going down there and having a yarn with all. And there was a half dozen councillors in the caravan, beside a caravan, Main Street, but they just parked themselves on the main street. And it was quite interesting. There were local identities walking around, and they were engaging. And I thought, well, it worked all right, but it was still probably most of the councillors were the most numbers hanging around even the main street of Gore at lunchtime. There's, how do you reach everyone? I don't know. It's
Well,
I think so.
we can't reach everyone.
No.
That's the point, right? And so, in my mind, making lots of noise is really unhelpful because there's already a lot of noise in people's lives anyway. So, to use the term cut through, you know, and I'm reminded of what's his name, Minnie's presentation at zone meeting about, you know, the depth, getting the conversations that have depth into the community. To your points about the people who people listen to, whether they're right or not is another story entirely, but they're the ones that people listen to. So whether that's industry groups or the publican or, you know, whatever. So we have to be very clear and concise about. The other thing I would say, I know we've shared, and I'm all about sharing and caring usually, but I know we've shared spaces with our territorial authorities in the past, and on the surface that seems to make a lot of sense, but actually I have discovered that just adds to the confusion about who we are and what we do, because in a particularly unique situation for me, because they see me next to the ICC or within the ICC stuff, and they go, oh, that must be that Ludlow person from the ICC, right? So our own distinct conversations that are still connected to the TAs, but perhaps the shared space or the shared opportunities are actually working against us rather than for us.
Well, thank you. Well, one thing, and we're not going to get into individual tactics right now, but I'll just throw this one out there. One thing that I did in the past that was very successful was have previous council mayor and councillors in a supermarket packing the bags and actually having those conversations. It worked really well. national, when you're not.
Anything associated with shopping.
And it worked really well because it was just a connection point. And sometimes they spoke about the annual plan, and sometimes they didn't. But it was like, oh, what are you doing here? You know.
Well, I was at the night and day last week, and the couple of the Sharks basketballers were in there rolling ice creams,
Well, there we are. You see, there we are.
which was quite difficult.
I've done a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Rolled a few ice creams in your time.
Take shopping bags,
Yeah, yeah.
delivery stuff, all that. Does work, but a great mass, you're still only a percentage of people that get there. And
Yeah.
we have our stuff online.
Yeah.
How many people actually look at that when you look at the wider populace? And by and large, our comms team do a pretty good job, but I'm just wondering about leading up to the LTP. It's just buying some space on the third page of the Express, which goes to everybody.
Yeah.
What's on at the council, and just hit some, not a great dialogue of stuff, but just the importance of science behind our decisions, why we're doing this, what's that. Just hit it with something like that, and a bit of expenditure there could well save us a lot of angst and a lot of expenditure somewhere else.
Just a spoiler alert, you're going to love the advert that we've just been putting together because we're doing exactly that.
Yeah, good.
So that's great.
Yeah, just to add from Lyndall's comment, and there's no use doing it with the TAs, and now I could get shot on this one. But the people, general people, can understand what they're doing. They don't really understand what we're trying to do and the science that we've got to make it work for the environment. And they can really, if you're talking about packing bags, they can put that back up on the shelf and forget that, grab something from the town that they understand and take home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the barriers that we've got to try to overcome.
I do now remember one issue, and it was our Invercargill South, that long-term plan. It was about page. I remember when there was a bit of, it wasn't front page. It was down in the Invercargill South, and there was something about the information wasn't quite. I know some people picked up and we got a bit of flack. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I think there was a comment that it
Yeah,
wasn't referenced on the cover.
More to the point you go,
Maybe.
why isn't it front page stuff?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we do all these other and the long-term plans and
Yeah,
Yeah.
back to
yeah,
the back,
it was
and
a
people were
story.
really
We can.
the ones that wanted to see it. And that's a bit like, put it on the front page, pay the money.
Yeah.
You've all seen it.
Yeah.
Bang, bullet point. Don't, you know, you don't want to hide it away in an ad or if you want people to know, it's a bit like what Eric says. When they open up the paper, they go, oh shit, what's this?
Yeah.
But rates are going up, everybody will start reading it.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get
even
the detail and say it's not as quite as bad.
some explanation about why we have to do that. You
Yeah.
know, that sort of stuff is
It's gotta be
important.
visual.
And to me, I think the Express is the best medium. I'll just throw that out there. Give some thought to it anyway.
If I can, sorry, I'm going to
No,
add
go
here.
for it.
Social media, and I mean, I need to do more.
It's
Like
really-
in their face. I mean, talking here today.
Out of the-
But it is like, it need to be
under our-
weekly going, this is what we've got long-term plans, long-term plans.
Yeah.
Specific target stuff. I know you'll be printing things, shit, I'm gonna photograph. Film Jeremy again and guide them through how to work well, but it is actually saying people look on social media and just sharing and trying to get it out there. And that may be the biggest sort of thing to get.
Can I just say that we know we've got a set number of weeks.
Yep.
It's in the middle of winter.
Yep.
It's in Southland.
Yep.
We need to move to targeted engagement as the main piece of our engagement in this instance. And there's lots of talk at the moment through the local government reform around this thing called communities of interest.
Mhm.
And we should be doing targeted engagement with communities of interest in my mind. And I speak about channeling that idea that Linda alluded to, going for depth over breadth, going for quality feedback over quantity of feedback. Those communities of interest could be economic communities of interest, geographic communities of interest, environmental communities of interest. There's different ways to slice and dice what a community of interest is. But I think we would get far better bang for our buck doing that targeted face-on-face engagement. You can put out a survey online for the wider public, use that as a an education opportunity as you frame the question. You know, you can have a sentence or two before the question. We monitor water quality for the following reasons. We monitor air quality for the following reasons. What are your perspectives on this? Or what are your thoughts on emergency management or climate change? I think that can be done on an online survey that can be open for the duration of our pre-engagement period while we're doing targeted engagement. And if people want to engage, people from the broader public want to engage following the survey, you give them a chance, okay, phone this number or book an appointment, come and talk to us. Yeah. But I would have thought that target engagement becomes the logical place to go, given the period of the year that we're doing it and what we know are the issues that we're going to be wanting to engage with the LTP.
Thank you.
The other two things that I've subsequently thought of, anytime you're faced with new information or an opportunity, as you will know, the first thing you think of is what's in it for me. How does it, what does this mean for me? So framing that targeted question in a way that can reflect that for the regional constituent who's never thought about it before is critical, because that's just what you do, right? It's just how people are. And the other thing I'm just going to throw in now before I forget is the website. Not many people are very positive about being able to access the information that they want on the website. So I know that's just kind of a side issue, but just checking in there now.
And we'll have an offline discussion with you about that, just to bring you up to speed and to listen to your particular concerns. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm very aware that we've spoken to Roger. Have you got anything that?
I was just going to comment that Save major change. This is likely to be the organisation's last long-term plan, and it will represent our opportunity to place a budget and a position into the amalgamated structure going forward. So to me, it's quite an important one in that regard. It's really clear that there's a number of you have already latched onto that there is some confusion in the community. Part of that is as a result of the competing processes and competing consultations that are occurring, and part of it is around, I think, a lack of understanding of the functions that the council currently delivers and has. So in that regard, it strikes me that this is a key opportunity to increase the base level of understanding of those functions. And I think, there are probably some opportunities to capitalise. I agree with much of what's said, and so I felt the need to jump in over the top of it. But to look back at, post-flood scheme conception and illustrate how many floods would have gone through Invercargill or gone through Winton or other places, and, the benefit that Southland Inc. has derived from this organisation's functions over 3 decades. They could be illustrated pretty quickly, I think, if we went back through, for example, flow records to pick out how many times the city would have been flooded. We could maybe even put some numbers around the costs that have been saved. It's similarly for the environmental functions. Clearly we've got some big challenges on our hand given the outcomes that the region's experiencing in some of the environmental domains, related to lack of swimmability, lack of drinkability, coming to the surface in other places, and ongoing degraded ecosystem health outcomes, I guess. So I think that using this, it's pre-engagement. We might get some really useful stuff, particularly if we can achieve that depth. Have some reservations about the time of year and how effective that can be, but the suggestions that have been made are all valid, I think, in terms of having it open for an extended period of time, going to in those communities of interest, and getting the depth if we can there. We get a second bite at the cherry, of course, because this is just pre-consultation. So perhaps there's an opportunity to have a real emphasis on education and bringing that understanding of the functions to the surface.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you.
Can I just quickly, we obviously do talk about new structure in the future, and I question the LTP processes. Is there not question it, I'm just questioning, should we be working with the other councils? Because ultimately, I know Roger's indicated, so this is actually going to set what we do if it's going into different new structures, and I agree with that. But from a point of saying, there's a lot of discussion around amalgamation. Should there be a place that all councils are actually doing this together, a wee bit, working out how this looks for the community? If the community could go to one place and say, okay, well, that's that LTP, other LTP, understand, I'm going to 4 different councils as such. You actually show we're working together.
In actual fact, I think we're going to come on to that a little later on.
That would be the expectations of the community, because they'll be asking the questions, why are you all doing separate LTPs? We're all going to be 1 or 2, whatever, in the future. So I'm just trying to, whatever is happening with the discussion around amalgamation, the community expects people to be working together.
Yeah.
As regards to this, not still just doing their own thing. Yeah. And we could lead if we think, hey, that's great. Well, we need to be engaging, working with other councils, because ultimately these LTPs will merge into something larger, probably.
Also need to remember that we're talking about 2 different pathways on the motorway, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about putting our information out.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we are talking about getting some information in.
Okay.
So we just have to be clear about, when we're talking about depth of message, whether that's depth of message for us putting our message out there, the education part, or whether it's the depth of
what we receive
input. So just need to be mindful of that, because there are, as you will be well aware, different ways to do those 2 things.
Right.
I'm going to observe that comment.
Yeah.
Around the public will may challenge why are we doing this when we're going to be trying to smash together. I think the emphasis here is that we are exploring what are the functional expectations, needs of Southland. That the functions aren't going away.
Yeah, exactly.
Structures that deliver it may change. The functions must persist. And what we're looking at is understanding what does it take to resource and sustain those functions. Not sustain the organisation, but sustain the function. I think that'll be an important message to weave into this.
It should be front and centre.
And I've got a slightly different perspective than to Jeremy's on working together with TAs.
Yeah.
For that very reason, that they are totally different functions.
Yeah.
It's just more like, if I can clarify, sorry, I'm just saying it's not necessarily, it's actually being there together. I'm not throwing a theory out somewhere where I was just thinking GDC does something, we should be there, because we're the 2 councils and just trying to piggyback on each other.
We can certainly have a look at how
their community pays rates to those 2, SCC and us,
Yeah.
SCC and us. GDC just need to be working.
If nothing else, it means we can keep an eye on the same, I suppose.
And that's why they'll think we're there. Anyway, no, that's great. Thank you. Now, Jane, I think you're a little bit more, and then we'll be back to me.
It's a little bit warmer.
A little bit more, no. And Councillor Ludlow's obviously very cold.
Yes, that's right.
Cool. Okay, so we'll just talk briefly on the proposed approach. So this approach leans into what we already know works here. We've covered a lot of this in our discussion. So it's about people, place, and just being really clear with simple language. So, not our institutional language, it's connecting with our people. And it also reflects that shift from broadcasting to more intentional engagement, which we've already talked about, and the targeted approach that you've talked about, Councillor Morrison. We've already discussed how we need to acknowledge the wider context that we're working within in terms of government reform and those overlapping processes. And whatever we do, it needs to be really, really meaningful. So moving our audiences through that understanding, awareness to understanding to participation. So those are all the things that you've really highlighted already, which was really cool to have that conversation and get your thoughts. You've got a really good understanding of how we need to move people through the process. So we'll look at some principles if we move forward with that approach. So these principles are grounded in what resonates with Southlanders, and particularly around building trust and that reliability. So starting with what people care about is really important because when people feel fatigued, they often disengage from the institutional messaging, as we've already covered off. So using these principles help us ensure that whichever approach we take is really grounded and we're really clear on the purpose. We know why we're doing it, we're listening, and it's not about decisions at this point. You talked about, receiving, giving information or receiving information. So that's really what these principles are built on. And most importantly, very critical that we are closing that loop. Otherwise, people feel like they're continually just repeating themselves. We're not listening and we're not looping back on those conversations. So that's really critical. Now, moving on to that delivery that we've briefly covered off as well. We've already acknowledged that that is a tight time frame, and winter is, it works for us from an operational sense, but it's a really busy time for our community, particularly our rural community. And we've also already touched on the fact that in terms of events, we don't have the luxury of the AMP shows and the field days. So we would have to be very, very targeted, key word of the day, very targeted about how we undertake this delivery phase. So really the question is this timing right from a community's perspective? And yeah, do we think it is the right call to move forward? Is it going to land, or are we actually risking adding more pressure to a potentially fatigued community with all of the things that we've already spoken about? So
right in the middle there's the head start.
exactly. Yeah. So
There's going to be a focus on all that. There's all the noise around it.
yeah. And so in next slide we've got considerations, which is, again, we have had it, we've covered off a lot of the considerations, so to speak, already.
Yeah.
But yes, as you said, smack bang in the middle, we've got the 9th of August. So that is a key consideration. And yes, we could move this pre-engagement out. Last time we obviously did it from December to January. So there is that option, but I guess in terms of getting the most useful information from the community to be able to inform the formal consultation, it's just a consideration. If we didn't do this now, we did it later, what would that look like?
You know how you said last time we did AMP shows? Was that later? Yeah. Okay, for some reason I was thinking we were better organised and we were a year ahead of. No. Okay, so we're actually, this is more proactive.
Yes.
Correct.
In this case.
Yeah.
Could you go back one slide to what do you mean by listen early and pre-engagement, for example? What are you imagining are the activities or the investments that we're making at that point?
Yeah, so it's really building upon our storytelling that we're already doing. So we've got the Love the Air Down Here campaign, and it's really building upon that storytelling and getting our councillors involved in gathering those insights and learning about the priorities and where they sit for people. And then we would, each phase sort of builds upon itself. So the next phase where it talks about lifting visibility, that's where we really hit the ground running. We've got from the 15th of July to the 5th of August. And that's where we're trying to tap into as many key events as we can. This is all ideally geared up around you lovely people having a huge role to play if that is what you want to do. So really getting you out in the community as much as we can and getting the visibility really high. Going deeper is talking about testing those trade-offs, the direction, but continued storytelling and targeted engagement. And then that last section does what it says, sharing back what we're hearing and how that is going to be used going forward.
We're really now at the T junction, right? now of this discussion. So if we just, now it's up to you. Do you want to commit to pre-engagement or not? Alice, do you want to say something before that? I just wondered if
I think that your timing is right for the rural population, because they're not milking their cows, they're not digging the sheep or doing something, but there is more time over that period that you've suggested to actually come out and be interested in community type things.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's the town like?
Oh,
Well, we have had a bit of a think about some of those highly the local events that are on and held through winter regardless. So cold as it is, Invercargill Park Run is a key event that's really well attended. So again, we're trying to think of places to go where the people are. So there's ways it engagement might look quite different to what we did last time around. Yep.
schools are still open
Mhm.
and they still have school events.
Yeah, sorry. Just
You know, some of those institutions, want of a better word, SIT still functioning, still lots of really interesting perspectives that you will get from there, because there are people who are not necessarily embedded Southlanders.
But I really think that we're not thinking, if we are looking for where will the people be, that's not the right way to think for targeted engagement. We need to organise events. Let's go and talk to U3A. Let's go and talk to the beef and lamb group. Let's organise an event with Federated Farmer Support where we go and, so targeted events that are planned and organised, which see us convening at a venue at a set time one evening to talk to those people and explain why we want to hear from them and what have they got to share with us. So I would be targeting those, investing in those kind of engagements rather than going to what we think are public events in the middle of winter in Southland.
For sure. We've definitely got suggestions for those.
Yeah.
And they're organised by somebody else, we just have to tune up, which is rather.
Where are the people we want to talk to? Yeah.
Or requesting that they get them together so we can talk to them. Collaborate.
But there will also be there will also be some other stuff we can piggyback on. That's what I'm saying.
But before we invest too heavily, I would want to have a sense of what are the things we want to talk about. Right. And better emergency management, climate change investment, regional spatial planning. How do we explain that we're going to need to invest and commit more resources to these things, and we need the community mandate to do so? I don't think we're going out there with blank canvas going, what do you want to tell us? We want to go out there and say, this is what we're thinking of investing in. What problems do you see with that?
You get it. You're going to go?
Well,
okay. Yeah, no, I'm just picking up on what Phil said. That's right. If we're looking at the bell curve of positions where people are, the influencers are the people we need to make sure we've engaged with. Yeah. And they're going to drive the movement on that positional bell curve that's actually there. And we need to do that. It's a big, great unwashed, for want of a better term. Their driver is really the cost of rates and are we getting value for money? And so we need to do something about engaging with that as well, about why we're doing what we're doing and how it's science-based and all of that stuff. But I'm just agreeing with Phil that the influencers, which are the leaders in the various sectors of the community, we need to have meaningful engagement with.
I think, and this won't work, but tomorrow we've got Dairy and Z coming in here.
Yeah.
And they get out and see a lot of people. Farmlands get out and see a lot of people. PGG, those sort of things they're the type of people that will stand around and have a bit of a yarn. And we've got to get the message there. I don't know, it's only a suggestion.
The key to Phil's point though, is that we take the important things to them. We don't just go, here's some things we might want to talk about. What's important to you? Yeah. No, because they're going to say rates.
Got to control the discussion.
Yeah, precisely. And that helps with the education of what we do and why we do it. Take the big issues and highlight.
So what I'm hearing then, we are happy to commit to pre-engagement?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm struggling.
Okay.
Personally, I'll just put it out there. I'm just trying to work out if it's going to be very complicated. but I'm trying to work out, pre-engagement, I'm not here for the first 2 weeks, but that's right. Yeah, but that's listening, not talking. I'm not good at listening. I'm just trying to understand if we are, we're going to keep it simple.
Yeah, should we?
And I don't know how many things you want to talk about. You know, Kanoa would be the first big thing up there. What we're doing, you know.
For some communities of interest.
But I mean, the Kanoa will be funding down in Invercargill too. There is
Yeah,
Kanoa funding.
make it
But we've
relevant.
already secured that funding.
Yeah, but
We've
it's
got a
actually,
mandate to do that. We don't need to
it's
talk
not a
about it.
mandate. It's actually telling people who's doing it and we're doing it. We're
What's gonna happen?
trying to show us what we're doing. I mean, the EMS, need to invest in that. You know, I'm trying to say, what are the five things that we need to talk with the community? But keep it simple, keep it clear. So you don't personally, night things
Yeah.
are major.
Sorry, Marcus does have a sorting exercise that will help us.
Right.
Which we're going to move on to.
Because if you have too many things,
Yes.
there's that much going on.
Yeah.
You'll lose people anyway.
Okay. Should we?
You do the yes slide and then we'll do the sorting exercise.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this
Yeah, true.
we've already covered off. I mean, the one thing that is important is, you know, what would success look like? We don't have to necessarily answer that today, but it's an important consideration.
That's you, I can give one.
So success is, I would describe it as the number of conversations per hour. You can hang out at an A&P show.
Yeah.
And spend a day there and have 3 conversations about who your grandfather was related to and who sold the farm. You know? Yeah, it's nice to talk to people, but actually you've had no meaningful impact in that period with the conversation that you have. So that's why if you can talk to a community group who are in a hall for an hour, but there's 25 people there, that is a way better return on your investment.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's like, sorry, we keep things sort of.
Stuff.
You know, I've said, get everybody in go and tell them your rates are going to go up 20%, get them in the hall, you'll have a full hall. Once you're in there, you go, it's not as bad as that. Let's talk about business. I mean, I've said that for years and years, unfortunately, and I'll be very blunt with this.
Yeah.
That management said, no, we won't do that. We don't want to get an argument. And you're listening now, we're going to be fed, so even indicate around the amalgamation, you want to have would you come to a hall, you know, have a discussion. I mean, there might be opportunities where you go, hey, we want to come to amalgamation, but there's a couple of other things we'll talk about long. This bang, 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 bang. All right, let's get into the fun stuff.
Use
But
your word,
you
that's the
use the situation, and probably that's probably from a rural aspect, but it is in town too. You just got to, I don't know, you just got to get people through. Yeah, but there has been, like Garrett, I've said this many times, there's been a feeling against that, and I'm happy to front up. The councillors were happy to front up. At least get everybody in the room. Let's get a bit controversial and get in there.
Good.
Sorry, I'm just trying to.
We want to do that.
Yeah.
20 or 30 people in one person.
So just question 2 on here. You know, we do need to cover off how you want to be involved, what role you want to play. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor.
I think you covered that further back, and that you actually said that the councillor may be trusted. He may know what he's talking about, or she.
Depends on the council.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just saying may, and you're looking at me, but that's how we want to be involved, I guess.
Yeah.
To be able to put the story across.
Yeah.
And put it across in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I would.
Have to be the same story that we're all telling.
Yes. Yes, and that is important.
Yeah, there are 2 aspects here.
Yeah.
One is that we need to have a system that people can trust and believe in. And so if we make ourselves available and people come and say, oh, didn't you talk? Well, we did. And we advertised what we're doing and you didn't avail yourself of the opportunity. Because, I mean, that is the greatest confidence builder that you can get, that you actually make yourself available. That's probably more important in my view than the dialogue that follows after that. That people need to trust your process and how you landed in the right place, and saying that you made yourself available, you've been here, and this is how we based our decision making. Then you come back to those people that actually want specific answers, and they may cause a bit of agitation if they don't get the answers they actually want, and they need to be dealt with as well.
Can I,
You can do whatever you want.
Councillor Gibson, you said before about the different connections with like farmlands are out and dairy and lead are out. So if we could, I guess, tee up some opportunities for you potentially to work alongside someone that you know in that organisation while they're going out, is that an opportunity you'd be open to taking? And same question for the others.
And I'm just,
Working with the connections you already had.
yeah, and my thing is that that's getting out to a whole lot of people, because in the winter time, they don't sell much. Shit, I better be careful, but they do go out and they do talk to people in their cups of tea, and if they're lucky, cream cake. So, you know, and all that conversation's going on,
Yeah.
which might then loop back round to them being interested in coming to some of the community things that we put on.
Yeah.
Your vets are probably a similar thing.
I would be happy to go and support community-based events.
Yeah.
Communities of interest, whether it's fishing game, whether it's
Yep.
Menopori community group, or Tiana, or Lumsden, or whatever.
Yeah, similarly, I'd be happy to make myself available to do that sort of stuff, particularly where it's deliberate on our behalf, and targeted to these communities of interest. I'm probably less likely to spend a day with someone going around to visit 2 or 3 I just don't think that's a good return on time spent.
Thank you. Okay,
Do you want to go that one?
yeah, should we do the last slide and then
That's the no.
we've got the last slide is just a summary.
You're not going to go away when are you finishing?
What
Because you've given me a lot of confidence today. I can actually read your slides, and they're short, and you can actually get them. You're getting the impact. I know. I'm just giving you some praise, because and you need to be doing it for a whole lot more to
Yeah.
get that sort of thing, so the message comes across clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I didn't want
Jane,
to lose.
Just, whoever's doing the minutes, can you put ringing
right.
Can I just-
endorsement?
Need to
One
be
insight
across more
for
into
me
the presentation.
is that
clarity.
no other council in Southland has a science team. They're
Faculty.
very different for that reason. And I suspect that's why also, on average, we've got councillors who are more science literate than your average councillor and other. And I'm not being critical of them, I'm just saying that the
Yeah.
kind of conversations that we are required to have more frequently engage with biophysical science stuff.
Very technical.
And we want to, I think that's something that we want to highlight in terms of telling stories. And I know that scientists aren't great storytellers because they are data driven often. Without being disrespectful of scientists, but helping to tell the story of why science is so important to the evidence-based decision making.
Just to summarise on here before we go on to that sorting exercise, pre-engagement obviously strengthens decisions, but it has to be done well. It's got to be done at the right level. We've talked about the context, fatigue, reform, those competing demands. That's front and centre as far as we're concerned. So it's just about finding the right approach, working with you to find that right approach. And it's not about just doing more and more engagement, because actually that's a quick path to do. And making sure it works for you as the decision makers. This is about informing your decisions. And that's what underpins all of this. So you make the best decisions for our community.
Bottom point is really,
critical to show how input influences
as a
direction.
feedback loop to the community.
And go, as we talked earlier about that feedback loop, you know.
But making it evident to people, you will not see the outcome of this until mid-year next year.
Yeah.
Don't expect rapid results on conversations in August of 26.
Look, I think that's been a really useful discussion. Thank you. Are we going to pass over to Marcus to lead this, Joe? Yeah.
We're having coffee at some.
I think we should have a little break if that's appropriate. Let's have a bit of a break. Refill our tea mugs and thanks very much. It's been really good input. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. So this next exercise is the follow on from the communications piece. So what we've got on the tables is the 9 sort of key topics that we could consult on or talk about for pre-engagement. So what we want you to do is rank them in the area or the list of priorities. But before we get into that, it's is there anything missing in terms of those topics that should be included as something we want to go out and get some pre-engagement on? And then effectively what I want you to do is rank them. So I'm looking for a top 4 ranking. If they don't sort of make the top 4, then they're another. So don't spend a whole lot of time trying to rank 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're basically trying to filter down and get your views on what the top topics are that we want to do some pre-engagement on. And then once we get that, we'll be able to work up the content and the questions and bits and pieces that will assist. So
I'm a minority group and I've been excluded from the consultation. Excuse me a minute.
Bill took over.
Oh, it's all right, it's just.
Let it go, Bill.
Would you like a seat with them?
No.
Well, the variable that we have a
Jiggle and keep.
threatening flood, that one goes top, and then when we're having a drought, it goes down.
Is this a particular arrangement?
I started arrangements. Funding and affordability is generic and runs across all of these things. Because really all of these things will have a flow effect to funding and affordability.
And I think that.
Is this for consultation though, or?
Yes,
Yes.
these are things we want to talk about. The one that's kind of overarching foundation.
I would have that somewhere else.
Then you're going to discuss.
Especially in an environment where we're looking forward rather
The
than.
doing and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cost of doing.
In some respects, I also kind of position this alongside it because if you do this well, if you've done it efficiently, the LTP will
This
Straw
one
that
here is
you
funded by
are.
other agencies as well, MPI and.
future fit for the
And,
amalgamation.
you know, biosecurity and biodiversity. Certainly
There is a space for advantage.
More the responsibility of others.
We don't use
We're engaged,
there's
but
another
we're not the
fund-
drivers.
government mandate.
Well, then, anyway, by now.
We know, I can tell you that this,
Emergency management.
Well, a lot of people would say funding is.
we're going to need more money for this one.
And that they're getting value for money.
We've got a new group plan, it's an emergency management.
What's that?
And we've got a whole set of current various liability.
But we have a
We
precursor
will
task
be
force
asking.
to confirm whether there's anything missing or
Yeah.
any of them shouldn't be, you're right.
There was also going to be
Not
a
fine.
bit of initiatives.
No, it's not.
that climate change is looking forward.
Things are going on.
Not sure if it's going to be.
That's right.
Well, I would say that we can put transport down the bottom. And the reason is that the Land Transport Management Act got changed. Head off reform and RE reform. This is, and there's actually not a huge amount.
Ocean ranching.
That are advocacy consent from government.
But the spatial plan part of the
development of pilot as far as the economic viability of the property.
Try it, Rick.
But are we all that we're environmental?
This. And to a certain degree, that's.
I guess what I'm saying is we are already working through a regional land transport plan. And we're doing that with, and as a shared survey.
Yeah.
The detail there.
My concern is that,
I think that's got to come
The urban development.
here somewhere because
the
that gets all.
prioritisation of communities and spatial plan,
See what they want us.
that has to be well connected.
Maintaining resilient transport network.
Which also
Well, that would only be in relation to
Non-
floods, wouldn't it? It wouldn't,
carbon
we don't have a responsibility building roads.
I'm just trying to, I'm just.
Our responsibility is protecting them once they're used.
And we've given a lot of our land and others to the city council for other transport. So that, other regions, regional councils still hold
No,
that,
I-
hold that front and centre. I think there's a big opportunity here.
But we.
There is
Yeah,
screaming out for transport Invercargill, Winton, similarly other down
Really well established system that
there's a unmet need
constrains what we do.
And we're fortunate that we
like
have
Southland community.
to our friends. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean, that's
And LTP
Yeah.
things, yeah.
We are the coordinators because we don't actually do it.
So the one that gets me.
Our role
right,
is in leadership, not in delivery.
Yes.
Wetlands.
And we've given it to see. We've made that choice at some point
It's
deliberately.
a government transport committees should be led by the regional councils.
So
Dallas are
I'm
free,
gonna be asking
and they're the
for more
operator.
money from.
And so that's why we
Do we need
co-chair with the Otago Regional.
River management as well as not just, government funding, if that helps.
But we're
Well,
not,
the
not, we haven't in Southland, if you go to Dunedin's OLC, we made.
Yeah.
That's not the case here.
It consumes a lot of that time of their transport committee, the buses.
We're talking about a situation where Tiwai electricity to support something in Southland. We might have a data centre, we might have another, industry, something. Or we might see that there's a role.
Land and the flood
established
protection
long term
and those three are kind of
transport
close to
across the
yeah.
region, and that might not necessarily be
Biodiversity.
vehicles.
Do we really care?
It could be, dewatered milk.
And it goes.
Transferred to rural parts onto a rail line, getting trucked on.
Well, I think that's what they're calling Stuart
Inland port.
That's the plan.
Just need an incursion in our waters,
That's the
not
language.
the agriculture industry.
I see all three of these as very interrelated, to be fair. I mean, I'm not saying that it's just that there are themes
There's
that
a
run across
relationship.
all four of them.
But we're still hanging on the.
Me, I don't know about you.
What are you doing with it when you put it alongside? Leaving it to you to decide, to make a suggestion.
I think,
We'll give it back to Marcus and tell him
we can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're undecided, we can be
Briefing
undecided.
yesterday highlighted to me,
Yeah, I don't see it being in the top three.
No,
Right.
there is extra funding needed to make those planning a reality, and government's not giving us that. So unless we do.
Start back in a couple of months, once, and we'll get you to report back to the other team what you found. See if there's any consistency.
More clarity, it's still more cost.
Oh, yeah, more common.
If we don't change our budgets, we can.
Well,
do
it's
this,
just a risk that
drops
you're
away,
imposing.
saying just drops away,
Yeah.
drops away.
Oh, but we'll take it.
Well, this is about you guys thinking what you think is key stuff to talk about for this LTP, what's gonna hit us for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yes, it's,
Well,
well, there's a whole bunch of understanding.
Not everything so these come from an existing.
What we all know is
These come from our general functions of what we do.
Yeah.
So
fall short.
it's gonna actually draw beyond amalgamations.
Comparing to the there's nothing missing.
We're a science covered.
Yeah. Well,
As well, they will be function. We were talking about.
Yeah. That's part of what we do though. isn't it?
Well, it's using good information to
So
assist.
it's a function that underpins most of those.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a statutory function, but it's
Well, there are responsibilities around monitoring.
Yeah.
Management, science and processes, but then just monitoring. And I think leveraged effectively at an organisation scale, it provides insights and information into every single one of these, as a service provider to all those.
Do you think science should be on there though, I guess is the question.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I don't. I don't think so. First, that's just My view is only one.
Was there anything?
Well, I'm just
Yeah, we've
still
been
probably
heaps.
still caught in the first discussion we had.
Oh, missing.
No.
Yeah, is there anything missing?
I would say it's what we choose to emphasise.
And the thing we hold
How
our
we-
hand up and say is we make sensible decisions.
I don't know. What
Because they're based on.
Are we having a group discussion or just waiting to have a?
They're still ruminating on,
How we just kind of capture that in this exercise.
Something.
right, we'll
You're
hear
the
from,
picture.
this group first, and then we'll come back and circle back to see anything
Um,
missing. Or is it more to emphasis you're saying?
Okay, so I'm going to share a couple of insights. First of all, there's two that stand out for me because they are conversations that I'm currently engaged in from a joint or a shared services model. So the first one I'll label as emergency management, and this is kind of like the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, but we know that it's needed because of the approaching climate change effects that we expect to face as a region. Right now, we've had an updated or adopted a group plan for the next 5-year period, which lifts expectations of emergency management. And it's been driven by our understanding of what's coming out of Wellington. There's also an emergency management bill currently passing before Parliament. That also will lift expectations. We also know that we've got a whole set of insights from recent events, with a whole set of recommendations that we've not yet had a chance to act upon. So we know that there is an ask coming from Emergency Management Southland that we will need councils to attend to through their long-term plan process. Now, we will be, as a shared service, we will be asked to contribute to that. We're not the sole provider of that. Other councils will be asked to contribute to that as well. But definitely, as the host organisation, I think we need to perhaps lead a conversation or be prepared for conversations why we are going to be asking for more money for emergency management. So that's that one. We think that's one of the top set. Second one is climate change.
Yeah.
The Climate Change Working Group proposes a draft climate action plan. The idea is to have that available to inform each council's LTP submission. There are things we will ask for in that climate action plan, or suggest in that climate action plan.
Yeah.
And in some instances, it may be Environment Southland Service
Yeah.
funding that. Are you guys?
Roger.
So climate change is the second one alongside emergency management. We will need to ask for more money for regional spatial planning. We can't deliver that within budget without something else dropping off the list. Because that is essentially an unfunded mandate from government to do extra work. Over time, LTP and annual plan obligations might diminish once we've got the system in place, but for the next 5 years, the first iteration of this, it's going to impose extra costs and burden on it. So we will need to fund somehow that regional spatial planning capability. Or if we don't ask for extra money, what are we going to drop off? What's going to drop off the radar because we're not asking for extra money for the regional spatial planning? Then we're there's three that you had numbers 1, 2, and 4, and we see them as all sort of connected. So biodiversity and biosecurity, flood protection, and water and land. So there's the nitrate issue and investing in the science to better understand that. Potentially wetlands within that one, and the whole freshwater ecosystem decline. Is there an ask for extra money within that? I think maybe the science, I don't know. Do you need to invest in the science part of it? The biodiversity and biosecurity, the wild and pine issue, the possum issue, and biosecurity responses, ensuring that those remain resourced to appropriate levels. And then the flood protection and control, including nature-based solutions. So I'm not sure we've got it down to 4 or 3, 2, but
You got 5 or 6, was that the sort of top 6?
We got the 5
Yeah, almost met the brief, well
Well,
done.
5 was spatial planning.
and then.
And then a
But,
mush.
but we know that there are things that unless we ask or seek community mandate to resource it, there are new things on our radar that we can't attend to at the moment.
Do we need to ask for community mandate to fund some of those things that are mandatory? Or is it more communicating that this is what we're doing?
The mandate is we need to resource these functions to this level. If that requires us to ask more money from our ratepayers, I'm pretty sure they would want to know about that in advance. Whether it's the mandate to fund emergency management better, or whether it's a mandate to take more money out of your bank account. And I know right now, things like the regional spatial planning, the fact that government is rates capping local government at the same time asking for these unfunded mandates to make be a reality. There is a lack of logic in that, of course. That's really obvious to us, but it may not be obvious to the ratepayer. Not sure if all that discussion is helpful, but there's some really obvious things that we would want, in my mind, to put in the LGP, or things that are on my wish list of don't fight that battle. That's a battle to be fought through the LGP process.
It certainly helps with our thinking around next steps and direction. So this is primarily for that early engagement, but I guess the early engagement will flow into more formal engagement at the start of next year too. So these key themes that are popping up, we can start the conversation and build on the different elements moving forward. So we'll go over to the second table and hear what the top ranking items are. If there's anything we've missed. And then get into your top 4, 5. Okay, the others have liberty of 5, so happy to hear your top 5.
Thank you. Well, collectively we have undertaken to get to 4, not by dropping any out, but by seeing some alignment between some of them. So we've kept water and land as our top priority. We see the future readiness, funding affordability as interrelated and in a sort of second position there. And we have slightly expanded on what is the increasing resilience on data and science. And this might need a bit more reworking and thinking, but really thinking about that as, the knowledge and information available to assess and support decision-making and a form of effectiveness, not just in that future readiness space, but actually as a service to almost every single one of these. And then we've kind of got a group of 4 at that third level there, which relate to flooding, 4, 5, 7 and 3. So we just, I think, reflecting that we see a lot of interconnectedness between those aspects, particularly of that emergency management, adapting to climate change, flood protection, being very closely interlinked. I guess the outlier there is in the coastal space. There is an element of those, but there is, in that coastal space currently, there's also an anticipation of aquaculture and kind of changing use of coastal environments. And then we've got the transport and biosecurity in that 4th tier. So I don't think we identified anything that was starkly missing.
And probably that 4th tier was related to shared services with other people. Right?
Yeah, that's
organisations.
It's not our primary role. We're included in a group response.
Well done. Thanks very much. What we'll do is I'll come around and take some photos of those orders that you've got on your tables before you're distracted. Oh, thanks, Jane.
Wait.
No, I rearranged them as I was listening to these guys to get a visual, so I have to put it back.
pretty sure I got yours.
So that's a super helpful discussion. So what we'll now do is pull that together in terms of starting to pull that together with the Jane and the Longstanding as to, for the early engagement, talking about the things you've already talked about with some of those initiatives and approaches, and then using the topic content around these functions to, I guess, populate some of those key messaging and key bits and pieces to go out for early engagement for the long-term plan.
Can I just, in regards, looking back to the last LTP, the things that have changed from legislation, obviously altering a different playing field now, that our priorities or our bits and pieces, basically we've not lost control, but there's things that have changed or we don't do. I suppose I'm just thinking through any plan, like the money spent on SNA, that we're going to have to do some work on that. And that's been sort of taken away from us. Obviously, the lot up in the air as such, but effectively there are areas where we won't be doing things because the central government has taken for us the ability to do that away. Just trying to get an assessment of what the last long-term plan is. There's stuff there that's not going to be able to do, not going to be able to do, or not be able to do, but legally it's changed. The environment's changed. Is there a way of doing that, sort of analysing, or?
Yeah, and I think
it's not business as usual.
That will be part of the so for the work that we're doing for the LTP, we'll the next couple of workshops, one starting today and the one on 25th of July or 25th of June and then 1 July, we're trying to get some strategic context from councillors on specific topics. We're then going to go and doing a whole bunch of internal work over the next couple of months and then bring back more formulated plans saying this is our situation, this is our statutory mandate, here's the drivers that are going to be impacting us for the next 10 years, taking the direction that you've given us, taking us engagement from the community, all of these other aspects, and then we'll package it back up to councillors and go, this is where we're landing, here's the must-dos to meet statutory compliance, here's the nice-to-haves, and then we'll start doing some prioritisation and some horse trading as to a yes or no, that's a maybe, let's park that one for a conversation with us, but then start trying to really narrow down the scope of exactly where the LTP is going to land and try and be really clear to your point as to this bucket of money is purely to meet legislative compliance.
Yeah. Well, that's the discussion that I was doing.
We're going to end up in
you do an LTP and you start investing in certain heading down a road, so to speak. But all of a sudden the government goes, no, that road ain't carrying on. And when you say, oh, well, we've got regional spatial planning, we're going to have to invest in that. Well, from a councillor's perspective, we go, well, where'd that funds, can that be reallocated? It's about reallocation of where we can do or what we decide. And so, but it's to understand 2 years ago, what in the 3 years, what's changed, what we able to, what we must do, and things like that. So.
Yeah, and I think if we can be really clear, I guess, in that more formal consultation round and the engagement, saying actually, our money and funding that we're going to spend in any given year, like 85-95% is to meet statutory compliance, and the 5% we're playing with is this much on your rates. So while the rates are getting up there, effectively a whole lot of this work that we do is outside of our control, and we've got to fund it to be able to be legislatively compliant because there's risk associated with not doing it. So while the rates are trending this direction, if you can package it up to say this is pure compliance with legislative requirements that we've got no control over. There's a little bit around delivery, but here's the stuff that's discretionary and equates to this much. So trying to be really clear as we're going through the activity management plan LTP process, of when we bring it back up to you as councillors and decision makers, we can try and package it up in a way that we can break it down to go, this is what legal compliance is, this is the discretionary stuff where you can play, but largely it's not playing katoa across all of the elements.
Is there a way that we can make that more, is there a way that we can change the way the LTP actually looks so that that is really clear for us and for the community. You know, because currently when you look at the LTP, there's a whole lot of words and there's some graphs and there's a bit of this.
Monies.
So I think it would be important for us to be able to actually present it in a way that's also able to be fed forward into whatever spatial plan, amalgamation, whatever you want to call it, long-term plans as well. So maybe looking at how we can, how it actually looks.
Not often Lyndall and I agree, but this is the third time.
Third time in a couple of days.
I know, it's a worry.
What the heck?
We've got to get the concept across, because that big bucket is 85% of what we've got. We're playing around with 15%. Then that's got to come out.
And I was going to say, in a period where there is cost of living crisis, albeit best year in 35 years for farmers in Southland, you know, which is attention. You know, some people saying cost of living crisis, I was going best year I've had in 35 years of farming. But with rates capping approaching, and when you look at all of these things, you go, wow, there is a lot of moving targets out there for us to engage. My mind goes to sentiment, and I'll draw on a military analogy, that when you are facing overwhelming odds or you've had your resources significantly constrained, your best investment is to increase your investment in understanding. On the basis that if you've invested in more understanding, then the limited resources remaining, you are making sure you are applying them where you get the greatest return on that investment. In this case, it would be making sure that we don't diminish our science and monitoring capabilities. If anything, maybe reinforce them slightly within a diminished overall capability envelope to make sure that if we have to sacrifice something, we're not sacrificing that understanding, and we know very well what risks we're carrying. And where we can intervene in the system, we are intervening to get the best possible impact from the limited resources we've got. Does that make sense? So that broader thing of invest in understanding, especially when you're up against the wall, to me that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Councillor Rose.
Yeah, sorry, apologies for lateness. I think Jeremy would have put it in, but yeah, look, I'm just interested in government announcements that occur as we go through this process and where they are going to crop up. That could be a fork in the road that we have to, and that we're sort of flagging those and don't lock in stuff that we have to go back and redo it all later. So.
A great question. So effectively the process from once we get the strategic direction on activities from councils moving forward is we're building activity management plans, which I'm going to be talking about in the next start of the next slides. And then we're going to be building them up to understand what we currently do, what the legislative compliance requirements are, what the synergies are with other organisations. So we're building up these documents that will sit behind the LTP. So when an assumption changes or some clarity is provided, we can then test it against the baseline information that we've already generated and go, here's the consequences. We now need to pull these other three levers, and then we've got the clarity moving forward. So because it's so dynamic at the moment, having that base understanding of our functions and our topics that we can then test assumptions or play with scenarios and test back against moving forward. And it's not even between here and this LTP grounding, it's the year after when we're doing an annual planning process. We can go, oh, we've got a change of government, or we've got new legislation coming, or there's a new setting, or there's some new requirements. We can then play it back to the baseline information, that foundation of knowledge that goes, this is what our mandate is, how do the scenarios change, and what consequences that have on what we do, what we charge, how we message, what we deliver, and then use that as a leap, as a stepping stone to then contextualise it into action. So the base information will be being generated in the next couple of months through activity management planning.
Would it be fair to say, Marcus, that for the purposes of the pre-engagement, we are going to have to assume that there remains a question mark over future amalgamation? projects. And I think we communicate that consistently in a standard, consistent way to the public. That will come later, but when you say the 9th of August is a deadline for submission of Head Start proposals, and even that's not certain that we're actually, as submitting one as Southland. And even then, what's the time frame for government to confirm that they've accepted a Head Start proposal? And then there's a whole bunch of subsequent design work to follow prior to implementation. So for the purposes of pre-engagement, which are going to run through July and August of this year, I think we just have to have a pretty consistent, clear statement that this pre-engagement is occurring with this uncertainty yet to be resolved in amalgamation issues. Definitely.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, given that time is of the essence, I think it would be quite helpful for us if so we've got our 2 tables and we've got those top priorities. Would we be able to get to a place where we could, say, focus on 3? What are the 3 most important top priorities? And I ask that so that we can get some really strong direction on how to move forward. Would that be possible?
Specifically for pre-engagement.
Specifically for pre-engagement. Yeah.
You can enforce that. We will do it.
We can, but whether it's just a conversation, or you wanted to try and sort them through. I believe you've got it there, but how do we join those 2 ideas together? Because if we've got emergency management and then we've got water and land, and then what would be second? Is it climate change, or is it funding and affordability? How do they sit?
Well, again, I believe funding and affordability can be set to one side.
Okay.
That is an outcome of these other discussions. I'm not saying it's not important, but the choices we make around to what level do we resource flood protection versus biosecurity versus emergency management, all of those, the outcomes of that will have an flow effect to funding and affordability.
It's part of the conversation.
Yeah. So that's kind of runs throughout the whole thing. I think transport can be parked to one side because we've got a well-established transport management system that we're running with Otago and Southland on that front. And we're working through that, and it's kind of got its own rhythm and its own predictable kind of steps that we step through, and the transport staff, we are currently already working through that update of our regional land transport plan with Otago. I'm just wondering if then what remains, there's still much to be spoken about with the public. I'm just wondering if there's some broad strategic principles that we might promote, things like invest in understanding and things like reinforce success, don't reinforce failure. Things like that kind of would guide us, that might then naturally see certain things percolate to the top of it.
Because surely the flood thing, the canal stuff, wherever we're at, it's still going to be a thing. And then it comes back to the risk management thing around the defect, for instance. Where are we at? So if we've got main defects that are fact, then surely that's a community. And we're trying to get a handle on where that is, where the top priorities are, still working through that. So I would think that's pretty important, given if you ask people what regional council does, it's still that catchment function right up there.
But are we asking for a significant uplift in ratepayer money to respond to that issue, or is that already locked in through our Kanoa funding?
Yeah.
But it depends how far we get. Absolutely, that's a question. But around the asset management one, around defects, we still haven't got a handle on that, I don't think.
It's a kind of sub-issue.
Well, it may not be if we've got.
Well, it's part of
I don't see it as
some of these things.
I don't see it as a central issue to the LTP going forward. I think it's an operational issue that needs, maybe some further attention. But I think in terms of our priorities going forward, water and land's up there. The future organisation system readiness is critically important, given what we know is impending there, and I still see this adaptation to hazards, emergency management, flooding is very interrelated to the group of 3, 4, 5 and 7, very very tightly related to one another.
Just when you're going into the long-term plan, one of the biggest focus was on the debt that was going to be involved in the flood. Is that still in our long-term plan?
This is rewriting the long-term plan effectively,
No,
so we need to rechange the funding, the signals and the tension and what's important.
When you start putting one of the biggest costs for a business, the aspect and the community's focus on. So, I mean, I believe it's always a priority to make sure the community, it is a priority. Because you've got hundreds of millions of dollars of debt in the long-term plan. And so it has changed. Yeah, we're doing our business as usual. There's always going to be a forefront of the discussions. But I mean, it's one of the priorities. That's resilience for a community. Talking about investing, we seem to always invest in, what's the word you say? Invest in, I've written that down.
Investing in understanding.
And understanding, that's great. It's the community sometimes gets tired of, we're just doing more science. And there's always been a discussion. We want to get outcomes. We want to see stuff being done on the ground. I know good science, good information tries to get the best results. I thought that we're probably always investing in understanding anyway through our science side of things. But I wouldn't be going out, we're going to think a bit more. We're going to think a bit more, work it out, because people are going to just get on with stuff. So how do you put that into the system? I'm not saying you're taking it away, but I'd be very against. I just want to get things done. We've been sitting here years and years, so just get on with stuff. We haven't been able to do some stuff. So I'm just jumping that.
So what I'm hearing is emergency management, flood resilience piece, and then the water and land, future readiness is sort of the top 2 or 3 things. Is there general consensus around that?
No. Community resilience.
I think climate change, adaptation, climate change, and maybe it's because I chair the regional climate change working group, but that is, and I've heard Karen Wilson, our chief scientist, say that is the biggest impact coming at our region. That's the thing that she's most worried about. I think we, as currently as the lead agency on climate change. Now, the reality is we are still working through that analysis. That may not be a big ask, but it's new. It's a new ask, which I think is, I'm not sure what triggers I know there's this term significance, and significance and influence is what we have to consult on. But certainly the things that we suspect we'll be asking for, they may not be huge costly investment. They're not going to be like a Kanoa investment in infrastructure. But I think they're going to be, I would really want to make sure they are not lost in the noise.
Yeah, I wonder for that, in response to that, I guess the engagement isn't necessarily about asking for money. It's about, where do we want to be leaders, or where do we want to have emphasis in our long-term plan too? So, that could be a point where maybe it's not a significant ask in terms of funding, but it's actually a significant shift and a lift and some leadership to help assist in that space. That could be a good opportunity to get some good clarity through the LTP process.
And just to observe that it will have a flow-on influence to our flood protection, onto our regional spatial planning, onto our biodiversity and security, onto our water and land thinking. It will inform all of those things over time, will cascade up.
Which is what I was about to say. Also, in terms of the adaptation hazards of climate change, that's also something that the central government are making a lot of noise about, particularly with regards to the spatial plans, etc. So that's part of that broader conversation that the country is having, that perhaps our people don't see the connection between us and that. But the adaptation stuff, that's flood protection and control. That's water and land, that's biodiversity, it's all those things.
Yeah. I don't see the essentialness around the climate change stuff, the adaptation stuff, something we've got to do, and it's something we've always had to do. If you look back.
So let's prioritise it so we don't end up with.
Well, yeah, but people want,
floods.
they want to make sure their flood infrastructure is
Don't
right.
Climate change.
Well, I'm just saying, I think they're a bit over that, and it can get quite fluffy actually. And like what Jeremy was saying, we've got to have more of a can-do thing, because that's one of the reasons.
So just to clarify, when I said invest in understanding, it's because there will be less resources to can do. We can do less because we've got less resources. And when you've got less resources to respond to a pretty significant list of things to do. I mean, if we can only do 3 of these things, which maybe that's the question, is if we can do only 3, which of the 3 we would think are absolutely essential for our region that we deliver on.
Absolutely. And just to build upon that, if we were going to talk about 3 things, what do you want to know from the community about those 3 things that will help you make decisions and focus LTP ahead of that formal engagement?
So on that basis, number 8, future organisation system readiness, we actually don't have a choice on that. That's being imposed on us from central government. So actually, maybe it's pointless talking to the community around that. We're going to have to resource that and find ways to do that anyway, regardless of what the community thinks about it, because it's coming from Wellington. So maybe on that basis, we can have a discussion around, well, that's going to be soaking up a bunch of our resources. That's an influence that is there that we can't eliminate. That's why it's more important that we are discerning with the remaining funding available to us on the remaining 3 topics, which we do have some control and ownership of in South.
The
That's the last point, and then we'll have to start moving into the next piece.
flood control, climate adaptation, EMS are all they're all linked in there. I mean, when it's like adaptation, just weather, extreme weather. So I mean that, like I look at the one anyway. I mean EMS does do other things. We've got windstorms, tsunamis, earthquakes, and everything. Just put it out. Nitrates are going to be something. All the community does look at it and go, there's we've got to deal with that, whether it's legislated or not. And we've got a very localised issue with one of the councils. And even discussing, there's something even discussing with mayors, they're going, well, what are we doing here? Almost pointing at us why this happened. So I think that's under water and land, but it's actually a focus that we may be able to put there into this long-term plan. And we're investing in that and understanding that. So, because I think a lot of the community don't like the idea of high nitrates in their water, drinking water systems and things like that. So whether that's under water and land, but it's I'm just trying to work out some of these things could be sort of merged together.
Yeah, and some of the processes associated with it, like spatial planning will assist, the science will assist, the regulatory planning processes, they're all things that will assist, the action that we do will assist all these buckets. I'm just trying to just get those topics that we're going to consult on. But I think it's a pretty good handle, and we'll do some work internally to frame up some bits and pieces for circling back.
Can I ask, is there potential to rename water and land and integrated catchment management? Why is water and land not?
It's more sort of functional basis, not how we do it. So we sort of set it up as that's what our statutory requirement is based on, managing land and coast and air. Those are the things we have to do. So how we do it is the integrated catchment approach. That's that principled approach of how we deliver it. But we've sort of tried to group it in terms of the air, water, land, coast, which we're going to deal with next. So we'll jump into the next session. Thanks, Jane, and the comm team. We possibly won't get to the marine stuff, but we'll see how we go. Lyndon. Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much. So I'll share my screen and we'll work through the groups of activities, and then possibly, I'm conscious that 12 o'clock you've got a meeting down at Transport World and you have lunch before you get down there. So keen to
The meeting's at
1
1.
o'clock?
The meeting at 1.
Meeting's at 1 o'clock. Oh, happy days, Lyndon, we will have time.
Told to be there by 12:30.
Past 12, yeah.
And the parking will be obscene.
You've got 12.
Well, Lyndon, before you duck away, sounds like we're gonna be able to push along a little bit longer, so we don't run away just yet. That's all right? Fabulous. Perfect.
Stay within the boys. Stay in your lane.
So effectively, talked about a little bit already about LTP approach, activity management plan. So this PowerPoint presentation effectively as part of the workshop was around introducing the proposed groups of activities. So how we chunk up the different parts of the activity of our LTP, explain how activity management plans will support the long-term plan, and share the purpose and strategic context for each activity area, and then we want to get your views on those components. So we're working through a plan with each topic, and we're going to get the subject matter expert like Lyndon to help assist us provide some context and some what's happening, what's going forward, and we're going to get some high-level direction from councillors as to what thinking do we need to incorporate into our planning. So when we come back in August and September, with a more formed view that we've already considered your view, so we're not way off on a tangent when it's not what you're after. So getting a lot of high level view now to build that into our approach, and then when it comes back, we've already sort of got roughly in the direction we're heading. So it's about getting direction, what matters most, and trade-offs, but it's not about operational decisions and final to sign off. So we're not looking for way in the weeds. It's sort of high level direction around those topics. So we've got one today, we've got some plan for the 25th, and we've got some plan for the 1st. So we're working through high-level direction setting from councillors for the key topics. So talk about long-term plan, groups of activities, activity management plans, direction setting. We're not going to do transport today. That'll be on the 25th. So I'll whiz through a few slides, and then we'll close off the next steps. So groups of activities. So in our 24-34 long-term plan, we had 3 key groups of activities: healthy environment, safe and resilient communities, and a thriving region. What we're proposing in a draft sense for this coming LTP for 27-37, sorry for the typo, effectively we're seeking healthy environment, resilient communities, and thriving region. So generally the same. We've dropped safe out of the safe and resilient is the only change we're seeking to make. So generally keeping with the same branding, same topics, and then the next slide, which we've got, I'll hand out, I'll get a Paul to hand out a handout for the next bit.
This is very resilient, isn't it?
So these are effectively how we're looking to group our activities. So what is in the healthy environment? We're looking for, effectively the purpose of this group is to protect, restore and manage Southland's natural environment, incorporating natural resource use and environmental management, air, water, land, coast, and then biodiversity, biosecurity, things the same activity grouping. Second grouping is going to be resilient communities, so supporting Southland's communities to adapt, thrive and stay connected, covering flood protection control, natural hazard and climate adaptation, emergency management, transport, navigation, safety, navigation and maritime safety. And then the thriving region part is more related to the internal parts of the organisation that support and assist the delivery of the more externally focused components, which are number 1 and 2. So this thriving region, about leading and enabling delivery of regional outcomes and regional economic development. So the governance, strategic planning, transparency reporting, all of those sort of aspects that assist with the external focused activity groupings. So keen for thoughts and feedback.
Can I ask Marcus, you've got change transitioning to a new system.
Yep.
The new system that refers to, is that under the result of the amalgamation?
And legislative reform, things that are popping out. So those are the things that will assist though. So science, planning, regulation, education, and engagement. collaboration, advocacy and operations. Those are all the enablers, the things that are going to assist us to the regional, the healthy environments and resilient communities.
This breakdown of activities is very consistent with the previous version, and there must be some advantages to consistency over time in terms of the tracking and reporting and monitoring outcomes in response to investment in specific areas, saying we've made the following amount of gains in this particular area.
Correct.
Yeah.
The other thing it does is, and
It's comms easy.
the Department of Internal Affairs and the Minister has indicated around with impending changes to local government structure across New Zealand, they're trying to set up consistent reporting and grouping of activities so that when the time comes to start pushing everything together, that everybody's talking apples with apples, and the ability to consider if everyone's talking about the same buckets of work and budgets, it's easy to start getting that alignment and consistency around approach. So they've developed 8 general areas, and the work that we've done is going to align with what the DIA is saying. With their paper, it's going to become a regulation that everybody reports and aggregates their topics in a similar approach moving forward. It hasn't popped out yet, but it's coming. They've signalled that regulation is coming. Correct. And it will assist also that DIA side of things around benchmarking across agencies and councils. So if everybody's saying this is the bucket for transport, then you can go, here's what the expenditure is, here's the consistent levels of outcomes, here's what the community is getting for their money, and here's where you sit as an agency based on the benchmarking across all of the different councils across New Zealand.
Just going to say, Marcus, around transparency, I've struggled when those titles are used but no explanations, because on the face of it, people don't exactly know what they are. So is the thoughts going forward that you would have some of those subcategories listed so that it helps people to understand that when they're looking at documents and spending?
Yeah, so in terms of the LTP, this would be one of the key parts of it that everything sort of hangs off. So how do we group our activities? What are similar? And we thought, well, there's a healthy environment. It's pretty much the same approach as what we've currently got. The only thing that's really changed in terms of what's sitting where is the transport was under thriving region previously, and we've thought, well, it's actually probably more about resilient communities. So that's the only one that's sort of jumped groupings. But we sort of thought those top 2 are more externally focused components, and then the small sort of backroom, the enabler, the assistance part is probably more the thriving region. So that's more internally focused. It's the supporting stuff that enables everything else to exist.
Just out of interest, what do the other councils describe themselves? The other district councils, and they say we're a thriving region. I mean, how do they describe the districts as their district councils?
I guess the visions are all pretty similar. They're not vastly different.
I've got the SGC jingle in my head now.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
Working together for a better Southland.
So that's just a better Southland. And thriving, I was just trying to make sure I know what thriving meant. Took one out of interest, what are they?
So I've got ORC here. How much does the work cost? And the areas are council organisation, regional leadership, transport, climate change and resilience and environment.
I'm looking for the flag. I'm looking for that.
I'm not sure.
I can't
And
remember.
4 different
Sorry.
big descriptions of what they want.
Yeah. So this is about how we organise our delivery functions and our ability to do the different parts. So it's effectively making sure that, for example, the natural resource and environmental management, it's very much about, cross-organisation approach and how we get our work aligned. So there's a science, there's a planning, there's a operations, there's communications, all of those sort of different parts of the organisation will all come together to make sure that our natural environment is well managed, it's meeting the requirements of legislation, and it's clearly articulated. So this is effectively just an indication of the activity groupings that aligns with generally what we've done in the past, what we're planners moving forward from expectations from Minister of Local Government, Mr. Watts, and the regulation that's going to be coming moving forward.
Yeah, and to my point earlier about making the next LTP transferable to ensure that our work is well maintained and recognised in whatever the new entity is, if these are consistent with the DIA regulation requirements, recommendations, then that makes a whole lot of sense to me, because and we're not having to re-educate people about terminology either. It takes a whole big layer of comms out of the system. So at this point, the only thing I have trouble with is thriving region, but I can't quite articulate it. But I'm generally quite happy with it.
Again, when people are consulting his Southland District Council, they've got every dollar of your rate goes towards transport, community resources, community leadership, environmental services, sewage, water supply, and stormwater, which is
I'm glad we don't have some of those things to
which is a really a breakdown that people understand. So that a bit like Lindor and the thriving region, some of the stuff, it's the leadership function, isn't it? Leadership planning, economic development.
And we have got that in our annual plan moving forward for the next year too, like those buckets of what percentage of the income generated from this. Will be the same LTP, I guess, across multiple years as to what the expenditure is across the different buckets. So no other sort of significant concerns or questions that I'm hearing. So
Does everything have a home within that construct?
Yes.
There's nothing that you've struggled to find we should sit.
No, we've got it covered. Everything's got a house. So talking about it, or basically the next slide sort of talks identifies what I've sort of already talked through. So clarity on core role. So improving alignment with statutory functions and accountabilities, clear value for a regional council. So improving visibility of what we deliver and how we add value, making our role clearer for councillors, community and partners, and preparing for organisational change, which is that point that Councillor Ludlow's just spoken about as well. That's the general plan moving forward. I guess we've already sort of traversed the questions, and anything missing or unclear or misplaced. I think we covered that already, so I'll carry on. So next part of the presentation is about activity management planning, which we call AMPs. So they're widely used in a territorial authority approach to the district councils and city councils, but effectively they're a way of planning and managing what we do into the future, describe why we do what we do and why, or what we do and why. It focuses on the activities, services and outcomes we deliver. So we do work for outputs, but actually how do they contribute to outcomes? And how do we get ourselves into that outcomes and shifting the dial instead of just creating widgets and ticking off defects? What is the outcome of that service, or what is the overall benefit of doing this work, and what's the factor of making sure it achieves a thriving Southland, and how does that work all together? Identifies assets, resources and partnerships needed, defines levels of service and how we deliver, so that accountability piece as councillors to make sure that what we're saying we're doing, and how does that link through, and ensures coordinated management of activities. So as we talk about that water, land, coast and air, there's a whole lot of science, planning, delivery, operations, assets that all support those functions. So it's a way of making sure the internal connections between the organisation are actually all well documented and cohesive and towards the delivery of those outcomes. And bring the information together in one place, like picking up on Councillor Rose's comment about as things change and legislation lands and assumptions become more factual, we can actually step it back into the activity management plan and go, right, these are the things that we've got certainty on. We had some uncertainty around that. That can all be deleted, so it actually provides a base level of knowledge that we can build on moving forward over successive LTPs, irrespective of which organisation is doing it. It's that base kitty or that bucket of knowledge that's transferred moving forward. And final point there is ensuring that planning is grounded on current information and best guess. So it's making sure we're sort of documenting where all that information sits and how we're doing it, so that as we move forward into our future state as local government, that resilience and information and intellectual property is maintained. And we've got our best foot forward in terms of our knowledge and anticipated direction moving forward.
Marcus, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why are we, I'm just doing a check, and maybe it's my deficit memory. Have we used activity management plans as a planning tool, delivery tool in the past, or is this a new way of doing this?
We have done it in parts, but I guess what we want to try and do through this process is add a little bit more to it, just so that we'll be able to successfully build on it over years, and you know, our functions aren't changing, and we've been pretty clear on that. The minister's been pretty clear on that, as to, irrespective of what sort of structural change exists with local government, the functions, and you know, going back to that previous slide of, you know, transport, emergency management, you know, water, land, coast, environment, biosecurity, biodiversity, those functions are going to exist moving forward for the region, irrespective of who's delivering them. So
what you're saying is we're doubling down or going further into this system and understanding that this will help us through a transition into a new system, correct, aligned with what other TAs, how they manage their work.
Correct, and it'll be that piece too, that also once we bring all those activity management plans together for the respective part, you'll be able to see the aggregation of what's all those statutory legal mandates across all of those different aspects, and start to get a better picture of going, well, actually, this is all mandated, and these are the bits we can play in across these different topics, and therefore, where do we want the settings? Do we dial up, dial down on which bits? So you can have that sort of consistency of approach, consistency of information, and consistency of messaging to help with decision making moving forward.
And we'll also integrate it across our own organisation more effectively.
Correct. And it's similar approach and language that TAs use for, you know, a parks function or parks and recreation open spaces. They do an activity management plan that looks at future growth and risks and CapEx, OpEx, all of those different things, tree management, and you know, assets and bits and pieces. So they've got, you know, deferrals and depreciations and all of the infrastructure spending for different parts. So similar approach, similar terminology, and similar language, so that when, I guess, the next LTP is pulled together, there's a knowledge and understanding of direction moving forward, and there's that consistency of approach that you can go, actually, this stuff's really important. We can't cut that stuff. And if we don't have that well documented and that well understood in an activity management plan, it leaves us vulnerable to having a slice and dice approach, which may lose some of their actual poor delivery and outcomes that we're after for the environmental space. So what we need apps now: affordability pressures, uncertainty and change, rising expectations, delivery and capacity constraints. So basically, to give us clarity on what we do, what we must deliver, and what changes we are responding to. So help these activity management plans will help us clearly explain each activity, distinguish between non-negotiables and choices, show what's changing and why, identify key risks and pressures, support prioritisation of trade-offs, preserve institutional knowledge, and support reform and structural transition readiness, which is all of the points we've already talked about. So what you'll see for each activity: why it matters, why we must deliver it, what we must deliver, where we are now, what's changing, and what it means for that long-term plan for 27-37. So this is sort of the template. So there'll be documents in the background that we'll be generating, but we don't want you to traverse hundreds of pages of bits and pieces. There'll be sort of summarised documents that will be coming up. And if you want to do the deep dives, or you want to do the reading and the understanding, then they'll be available for you to test, but don't necessarily want you to traverse all of the activity management plans across all the different functions, when they could be, you know, 10 to 20 pages, 30 pages long, but they will be available if need be, but be packaged them in a way that is really clear. They'll be good for going out for more formal consultation in the new year, basically saying, actually, this is what's going on, this is what's going to cost, irrespective of who delivers it. This is the bits we're playing with. Here's option A, B, C, D. What do you want to do? So having that basis of activity management planning will really assist with that community voice moving forward and really putting down that clarity around voices you've got.
Marcus, within this system, every part of this organisation's, their activities will be accounted for somewhere in some activity management plan in some way.
Correct.
Now there's the plan and there's what plays out in reality. Sometimes you plan for stuff and you are confronted by some unexpected thing which requires change. Does this system allow for you to build in an element of redundancy? Is it allowed to thus simply say we will pause on this activity and divert resources to a new or unexpected activity?
Yeah, so the activity management plans will be live documents, so we'll be working on them throughout the whole process of this LTP. So right up until after the public consultation in February, March next year, they will still be looking back at the activity management plan and going, what's coming in? Are we still on track? Legislation's changed. Whatever happens in future government at the end of this year, we'll be able to test those things and provide insights and understanding as to this is what we were working on when we built our LTP. These things are changing. Therefore, some of the decisions and the consideration of what we do operationally or how we choose to act as an organisation will be able to use that base foundation of information to go, yes, this is the right thing to do, or that thing needs paused, or this thing's popped out. What implications does it have on what we were planning? We now need to pivot, shift, or reinvest, or partner, or actually we've gone from a leadership role to an advocacy role because it's changing settings. Then we can understand those implications back and then make changes through the annual plan process, or those other mechanisms we've got through local government to make sure that we're on the right track.
And so will these activity management plans, what time horizon would they be prepared with?
So they're prepared for the long-term plan.
10-year time horizon?
10-year horizon with a review cycle after 3 years because we'll be in that space. So irrespective of who's making the decisions come local government elections and whatever entity we end up in, there will still be a base document that will be able to provide transparency of why we're in the space, what we're doing, what outcomes we're after, what we're spending, and then what the future looks like for these pieces of work.
Somewhere in there, there'll be some council direction as well.
Correct.
That may change. Because we can do that.
100%. And I guess your views as we inform this, and this is, I guess, part of the high-level direction setting for some of these activities moving forward over the next few workshops will be basically giving us an indication of where you want to see the direction moving forward. We'll take that plus the legislative context, the community context, and all the other information and things to assist developing those activity management plans. So when they come back, you can actually see those different elements popping out and then be able to make some decisions around where you want to go, what you want to do.
So Marcus, is this going to allow us to have it like a jigsaw puzzle and you can take a piece out and put another piece in, whatever, as opposed to now is some of the stuff jumbled together a bit and harder to say? Is that what you're actively meaning?
Yeah, it's I guess having that sort of common lens to put everything through so that I guess you're all approaching the same decisions and the same trade-offs with the same base level of information and understanding the risks associated with option A, B, C, D as to what levers you want to play with. So it's I guess elements to help with decision-making around priorities and approach for the elements of work that we have to do.
Across
up until now, though, some of those things will have been jumbled together a wee bit and a bit harder to see.
Yeah, this will provide more clarity moving forward.
No, it sounds good.
So what we need from you, so each activity we're asking you to consider what role do we want to play, so influence versus leadership, what matters most around priorities and levels of service, what does success look like by 2037, so thinking that 10-year horizon for the LTP, and and building in some of those quick wins, or what do we want to achieve in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not necessarily focusing on year 10. What's fair when it comes to funding, so who pays, how do we pay, affordability and equity. Some of our services are fees and charges, some are rates funded, so thinking about those funding mechanisms. Some of it's government funded, and how much are we willing, how much change are we willing to make? So do we want to dial up, dial down? Do we want to keep it the same? So do we want to just continue with existing budgets moving forward, or do we think, oh yeah, actually there's a lift here, we want to see this bit prioritised, and then run with some of those settings. So effectively moving to the next session is how the discussion will work. So we're going to briefly introduce the activities, provide some context, and then we're going to be asking for direction from you. So I'll skip through the transport one because we're doing that next week. And we've got Lyndon who's going to come and help us walk through the maritime navigation safety activity, and then we'll be working through aiming to have you out of here by well before 12. And I think we've got lunch organised too.
And the councillors are going to have a wee session. We might have a working lunch prior to the seller meeting. So for quarter of an hour. So.
Do you want us to? What time do you want us to?
No. 12's fine.
12's fine. Okay.
Yeah, we can eat.
Bring it back in here.
Yeah, 100%.
Marcus, just want to check, given that the bylaw is still not decided, if it's all right if I'm still here.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep, this is about not bylaw related stuff. This is pretty high level direction setting.
You can't unhear it.
Morning, everyone. I thought, as a lead in here, we could do get Hayley up here to do a little interpretive dance. There's men without hats. They do the safety dance.
Yes.
That old generation remember that?
Yes,
I remember that.
That was quite a big stay.
And we're all going to wear some life jackets. There's no sink or swim options.
I'm happy to sink
You singing it song?
Yeah.
So effectively, what does maritime navigation safety matter? So effectively, this activity supports social wellbeing and safety, supports economic wellbeing, protects environmental wellbeing, builds resilience and emergency response capability, and ensures fair and safe access to waterways. So happy for any questions, thoughts, comments as we work our way through, and Lyndon's great at answering questions about this stuff. So why we must deliver. So our core legislation, Maritime Transport Act and the Local Government Act. So that mandates what we do and why we do it. And there's supporting legislation with maritime rules, navigation safety bylaws, and then the Resource Management Act requirements. So effectively, in terms of strategic alignment, we've got the Maritime New Zealand Framework for guidance. We've got New Zealand Port and Harbour Marine Safety Code, Regional Navigation Safety Bylaws, Harbour Master Directions, Regional Policy Statement, Regional Plans, and the Biosecurity Act, Field and Marine Regional Pathway Management Plan, and the biosecurity programs that are all sort of interlinked with this activity as well. So what we must deliver, non-negotiables. So maintain the regional maritime safety function. So we must continue to regulate ports, harbours, waters, and maritime related activities when acting for the purpose of ensuring maritime safety. Maintain harbour master capability where required. If the master directs, the council must appoint a harbour master. Where it appoints one, it must satisfy itself that the person is suitably qualified. And I'm sure you've all got confidence in Lyndon's approach, being a champion in this space and being across multiple different areas and being in the role for a significant amount of time. We must deliver lawful navigation and bylaws if required and as needed. Must be made in consultation with the director, must not be inconsistent with maritime rules or other specified legislation. Maintain oil response readiness and response obligations. So regional councils are responsible for planning and responding to marine oil spills, and thankfully we've not had any significant issues in the past, and hopefully we can keep it that way, but we must be ready and have plans in place and be ready to act if that arises, and operate within the national safety framework. So Southland's navigational settings sit alongside maritime rules, which applies everywhere in New Zealand and sets basic navigation safety requirements.
Just a quick question, so basically, we're the police on the water, from a safety, where there's rules around boats, and even in the port, I was just saying. Yeah, but ultimately there's rules and we ensure those rules are adhered to. And that's just, I was just going to ask the port, so we have oversight of what goes on.
Absolutely.
The harbour, basically.
Yep. All the waters, coastal waters, inland waterways that the council is responsible for. So navigation safety bylaws cover all of those areas.
Yeah, I just got to ask that question.
Are you well enough resourced? Because when I look at that what we have to do, it's massive. And I understand there's only you, your friend, and your boat.
You've got a friend.
I'm more than one boat now.
I got two friends. Oh, wow.
We have a
go.
friend.
All right.
Leave it both. We're currently resourced three in our group, myself, Deputy Harbour Master, and a navigation safety officer. Comparison to Otago, they have a similar number, but both regions couldn't be any more different. We have copious amounts of remote areas and Stewart Island, Westwick area. So no, we're not adequately resourced to be truthful. To be able to competently undertake our obligation. We have the tools, we have the boats that cover the majority of the areas, except for Fjordland. That's another beast on its own.
So if you could just quickly mention the MOU that we're in the process of with Otago.
Yes.
Our contractor. And how we coordinate this regionally, just quickly to flesh out the answer.
Yeah, so we're in the process of developing an MOU with Otago Regional Council. So my offsider and his team up there in the event that I'm away overseas or I'm sick, we need that extra coverage for our duties down here, and vice versa for Otago as well, so that those we can consistently and reliably expect to maintain a certain level of coverage in those dire times where perhaps we're a little bit under-resourced. So that's very much almost complete. We're just doing a little bit of work behind the scenes with Win Williams and a few and Otago to get that across the line. And we have a casual contractor who is ex-Deputy Harbour Master. He's on our books as well if we need him. So we do have other avenues apart from our permanent staff here.
So you're happy that the non-negotiables are being met?
I wouldn't say that. He's a casual contractor, for example. He's only available when he's available. So he has other work to do. The biggest commitment for us is to try and spend more time in Fjordland, which is increasingly difficult. With a team of three, we operate on a two-up basis. Here's a good example this morning. Boats gone up on the beach down in Bluff Harbour. So we have a team down there that's organising that. If we have multiple incidents, then we don't have the capability to get out there and necessarily respond to it on a two-up basis.
So is there capability in line with other regional councils around the country that it seems to be able to respond, but sort of only just with the MOU and bits and pieces?
Different regions, Environment Canterbury, for example, they're absolutely blessed with the number of staff that they have in the maritime team. They have a dedicated all spill response team, whereas in Southland, that's a function that's covered by our team, as well as maritime, but also all spill response. So there's different operating models. Some regions are a little bit smaller and less complex. They have only 2 staff. But yes, it is a challenge.
Littleton would be it's a bit of
Littleton, Auckland, Plenty.
yeah, that's right.
Those are the
big hubs.
in Northland. They're blessed for the amount of staff that they have to be able to respond.
Yeah, just wondering if we could continue the AMP conversation.
Yeah, sure. So where we are now, what's working well? So Environment Southland has established public maritime safety framework and works jointly with Maritime New Zealand as it uses navigation safety bylaws and applies harbour master enforcement functions. Environment Southland has adopted the New Zealand Port and Harbour Marine Safety Code. So it states that vehicles moving in Southland waters, particularly ports and harbours, is subject to control and direction by the harbour master. The bylaw review is active and well advanced, so it's working its way through the process. Some good number of submissions there with 40 submissions, and we're working our way through the tail end of that. Submitters generally support the intent for the draft bylaw as we work our way through those processes. So where we are now, what are the key gaps and issues? So increasing vessel movements and higher risk activity, placing pressure on monitoring, enforcement and resource capacity, resilience and safety risks from a remote and variable environment, which we sort of talked about. Workforce constraints for specialist roles, limited availability of qualified harbour masters and maritime staff, fatigue and resilience risks. So maintain those staffing levels. Just maintain that safety side of things, aging vessels and equipment, increased likelihood of failure and safety risks if renewals are delayed, limited control over safety outcomes. So outcome depends heavily on user behaviour and compliance, resourcing constraints, limiting on water presence, monitoring and enforcement coverage, and balancing safety, access, and economic use. So balancing up those sort of commercial and tourism uses as well. So any sort of key gaps around what you're thinking in this space?
Just trying to understand your point that you might be short of people power, I should say. Right. With the agriculture coming into play, I take it there's going to be that there'll be more movements and things. And that looks like it will happen. It's pretty certain. This is obviously a concern with in regards to what you do, not necessarily the equipment, it's the people to be able to do the work. Is it a wee bit of I was just challenging the system, could you have people that are trained, that are working, when you need that extra person, or a bit like emergency management, when there is an incident, you need cover or you need help, things that you could have actually dual roles within the organisation. We've got like EMS, hey, we need people in EMS, they've got the usual day, but they're trained in that, in your zone. I don't know, I'm just trying to tease out, or more to the point, do you need more people?
We do need more people, and that's a good point. It's something we haven't actually explored, but that would be a conversation with the executive teams on ability for their own teams to be able to provide that support.
There might be people interested in that. I'd quite be involved in that too.
Bimbo's got a boat. Bimbo's got a
Hasn't he though?
Linda, just wondering, and I might be mentioning this, but some of the interplay for your team with the regulation, the like maritime safety laws and therefore punishments, for want of a better word, are a challenge because like some of the fines or the retribution are inadequate. Is that a gap? Because some of your functions, once there's a problem identified, it's taken over by by security or whoever.
Is that a tension that's, I'm just imagining, or is it a real thing for you?
It has been in the past, but thankfully the bylaw review is also takes into consideration reviewing the schedule for enforcement for the fines. So that's part of the review of the bylaws, and I believe that's with the Ministry of Transport at the moment for review, but those fines more in line with what the other regions are doing compared to what it used to be. So it is a bit more of a stick we can use if we need to. It certainly will offer an extra deterrent, so I guess in a number of ways to.
So it wouldn't be necessary to identify an issue being that sometimes that's beyond your control because there are other legislative groups that have to take over. That's not an issue, just a thing.
Give me an
If you get a, I don't know, biosecurity problem, or you get a
dual warranted.
Yeah. So okay, no, that's fine. That's yeah.
Can I ask what's the obvious technology opportunities in your domain? Are there things that you know actually with some investment in technology is I know anticipating things with AI supported predictive tools? Is there drones that can assist with monitoring from safe, comfortable coffee shop locations? Well, yes.
We certainly have looked at that. If we use Queenstown Lakes District Council, for an example, we then contract out the Harbour Master Services to a group called Cougar Security, and the council there has invested in a number of technology, for example, cameras at ramps, etc., but still doesn't. You still need the people there.
Yeah.
To be able to provide.
I'm just wondering if technology would potentially bend or leverage your people.
And it's having somebody available to actually, if we do spot something, ramps that's happening, it shouldn't be done. It's by the time you leave here and get down there, it's having somebody on the spot is more valuable than giving. Yeah,
I think you expressed one day all you need is a helicopter that picks your boat up and takes it over there and brings it back again, so you can get a lot more done.
Well, funny that you would say that, because one of the boats that's parked out in the back there at the moment, and the one in Southland, they were actually, back in the day when they first purchased, they had lifting points put on the vessels to be able to do that. Toro Tiana was certainly has that capability. It is a small vessel. It's limited to how far it can go, its range, and what sort of conditions that they can go in. It certainly is an option.
I was just going to ask, obviously our size of our area, geographical, and the fjordland, because often fjordlands, it is a big part of our province, but there's not a huge activity as in day-to-day stuff here. But in your area, it is relevant, really relevant, and that's obviously. I'm just thinking about, do any other province have that? Like we've got a huge coastline, 3,000 kilometres or whatever they say. Are we quite unique in our area?
The closest example would be Marlborough. The Marlborough Harbour Master there, once again, he is quite a big team.
Yeah. So how many do they have?
I believe they have around about 8 or 9 people.
Yeah. Okay.
The various contractors that are available as well. We have 3 multi-agency patrols a year that go through Fjordland, and most of the kind of the opportunities that we target is to have somebody on board and have a presence. Yeah, but outside of that, we'll be looking at using local operators, which comes at an expense, and timing to undertake those patrols is one of the challenges. You go in there, some weeks you might not see anybody. Other weeks you go in there and that's quite busy.
Okay. sorry, Roger, I was just going to say, can I make a statement in regards to looking ahead in the future, what we may need? You know, probably if you've got a huge agriculture farm out in the 5A, tourism, if there's more people down there on all the lakes and things like that. I don't mean it, you can always do wish lists.
Yes.
If we don't even know what those wish lists are, I'll never come to the table either.
I think I used that example earlier where we try on all occasions to operate on a two-up basis. If we had an extra person in the team, and that would certainly go a long way to addressing some of their issues at the moment. So that's certainly we can we do a lot of work with some of the internal teams. For example, the marine biosecurity teams, the compliance teams, they have an annual taskings in Stewart Island to go over there, and we support them by providing the platform. So we're doing that, but we're also doing our own work at the same time. So we do have the opportunities to be able to double up, but having an extra person in the team certainly would go a long way to be able to balance those demands that we see, particularly coming up on the horizon with agriculture farms.
Yeah, Alistair, Roger.
You stole my words, Jeremy. You stole my words.
Oh, right.
No, you know, I was really keen to get, just for us to get, no, it's good, you know, to get a sense of the unmet need. Yeah.
Who do we lobby? You can
the
look at her.
lady at the back.
Ourselves.
We lobby you.
Yeah, well, you know, ultimately, this is a decision for the LTP as to, you know,
That's the thing.
some direction from council as to, is this an activity, and there's going to be another 8 or 10 activities come up in front of you, probably similar questions around resourcing and needs and gaps. This is something for councillors to provide some direction on moving forward. If this is something you think there needs to be a bit of a dial up, happy to understand there's no decisions today. This is part of the initial forming process that will assist with the go into the bucket of activity management planning. But effectively the direction you set now will be the tone that we look at through the activity management plan. So when it pops back up in August, September, there'll be signals here that, you know, Lyndon's taking from this conversation that will be come back up to you for, you know, aggregation across multiple different areas to go, oh, yep, this is where we think actually when you compare this with science or biosecurity and other parts, then you need to weigh this information up. But the direction we set today will be part of that process.
Just right, London, is there an opportunity to have people that are like get round and fielding all the time that can be your eyes and ears and feedback information, or even have limited pairs to act, take photos, whatever, and work with you so that where you can't be, but they are often, you know, sort of
We do, for example, the gentleman that lives out of Riverton, he is warranted, so he has a certain set of enforcement powers to be able to stop and ask people for their details, and we have somebody in at Milford Sound, Harbour Control there. We have a lot of eyes and ears, particularly with field and marine guardians, that we're encouraging to come to us when they do see things that are not going right in there, so that we can actually form some sort of response.
I guess for me that triggers the question, are there key partners, places where partnerships need to be deepened?
Mainly around the all sport response. We certainly have, in the past we've had relationships with Department of Conservation over in Waikiwi, for example. That's a high risk area that we see, but having Maritime New Zealand come to the party to be able to supply the equipment for that area has been the biggest stumbling block. There's a lot of the operators we have a very good relationship with around the lakes, Bluff, and so it's trying to get that buy-in, which I think we have now, and they certainly don't hesitate in picking up the phone if they. This morning with the vessel down in Bluff, that was a good example. having agencies as such, Fiordland auto response, we have commitment from DOC there to supply resourcing if we do have a major spill on Fiordland. It's big challenge though.
Yeah. Say Southport, we're a fairly big, like a good partner in what's happening around Bluff, the harbour.
Southport.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
oh,
they've got
absolutely.
their own boats and it's,
Key stakeholder and with TY, we have a good relationship with them as well. So we work very closely and we're always constantly sort of managing those relationships and making sure that they're enduring.
So the next part is about what's changing. So we've got the political, economic, environmental, social, technological, and partnership pieces. It's super poor quality, actually. More I look at that. So effectively, on the political side, the bold text is the updated Port and Harbour Marine Safety Code 2026 comes into effect in July 2026. Southland is in the middle of the navigation safety bylaw review. In an economic sense, we've got rising funding pressures and cost of inflation. Southport remains a major regional logistics asset. And also in the economic space, cruise activity remains a material driver for Fiordland and Milford. So that's sort of what's happening moving forward. Plus the aquaculture conversation sits under that economic aspect for what's changing moving forward as well. In the environmental sense, we've got changing climate, increasing sea surface temperatures, marine heat waves, sea level rise and storm intensity. Maritime safety frameworks increasingly focused on preventing environmental harm. High-value places like Fiordland continue to require strengthened marine protection settings. Extensive and often remote parts of the region and response associated with that environmental factor. In the social sense, we've got recreational boating remains a significant safety issue. Now, the user mix on waterways is broad and growing in complexity. Southland's waters are changing and so are the ways they are used. Technological sense, we've got stronger expectation that safety management systems in training technology use. And we've got increasing reliance on data-driven navigation and safety management, so the GPS navigation systems and bits and pieces like that. Port and Harbour Marine Safety Code explicitly responds to technological change and increasing dynamic marine operations. Partnership and organisational Port and Harbour Marine Safety Code based on three-way partnership, Maritime New Zealand, regional councils and port operators. And the last one under the partnership and organisational side of things is the need for coordinated emergency services and local responders. So this is effectively the elements that are changing around us. Some of them we've got some control over and some of them we don't. Any sort of thoughts on those?
Yeah, but particularly the waterways are changing, as Mark has said, all the time. We see more and more on-water recreational activity. We're starting from this coming season, we're seeing a little bit of an upsurge of cruise ships coming through Fiordland. That's another hat I wear in managing two pilotage companies, Southport and Port Otago, as well as the ships agents that bookings and coordination of those vessels in and around Fiordland. So busy time. We're seeing more and more different recreational vessels coming onto the lakes that we have to manage. There's those hydrofalling sort of kind of things, and that's a challenge for every region to look at those and how we manage those, and and making sure that the bylaws are fit for purpose to cover those sorts of vessels. So yeah, once again, it's just we see every summer that there's just a huge increase, not only from our own communities, but communities that are coming further out, as far as Christchurch or further up north, that are coming all the way down to bring their vessels down to our pristine waters down here.
Yeah. How do we get more public appreciation for the uniqueness of what that is? Like, it's the most unique and special part of New Zealand. It's also the most isolated. few years ago, I was in Cunard Sound and a yacht arrived. First point of contact from Sydney, Australia was Cunard Sound. What sort of risks are involved with that sort of thing? You got to just say, we need some more public appreciation of what you do and what the risks are, surely.
And it is really a team effort between ourselves and the marine biosecurity team, for example. If I have a booking for a super yacht, for example, that are coming on, I'll make sure that the teams know. So we're trying our best to cover all bases by helping each other, and vice versa. They'll let us know if there's any maritime safety related or vessels that we're unaware of coming out. So that is a challenge. That's for sure.
Cool.
So trying to be conscious about the 12 o'clock finish. We've got lunch at 12:20, so that's on its way too. So areas where councillor direction is required. What role do we want to play? What matters most? What does success look like by 2037? What's fair when it comes to funding? And how much change are we willing to make? So do more, do less, or maintain the same. So any thoughts you've got on any of those sort of questions? Happy to hear any views. Not necessarily to repeat anything we've got.
I just looking at the funding side of things, you're mainly funding the marine fee.
That's right, 100% marine fee.
That's just to understand that for everyone. So it's reasonably important for ships to come in to pay your wages. No, not quite like that, but
they're quite unique.
Yeah,
we're the only region that all activities are funded by.
And you're using all that money every year.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's nothing spare to get you another 3 million.
A lot of that money is contingency because we have a number of, for example, VHF repair sites around Fiordland to help commercial recreational vessels to have communications. One of those goes down by lightning strike. It's hugely expensive. So a lot of our budget is contingency. So we don't know, that can change from year to year, but we certainly don't have any problem spending it.
we do have a reserve that we have thrown some of the marine. I'm just understanding that we've been building that up. Back up. We used it all or got down to it. I'm just looking for anybody who would know where marine fee reserve is at, because we were going to get it back up to having at least 1 year. So I don't know. Don't need to stress about it, but I'll just.
Do we need a reserve there in case you get a significant marine oil spill response required to it, or whether that's emergency management and is funded, whether that's sort of, we need a little bit spare, or that's all sort of direction we can try and get with councillors as this process rolls through the LTP, is to dial up, dial down, and or do we want to actually start using some ratepayer funding to also assist with resourcing?
Just a point of clarification in the marine fee, we're talking about the cruise ships, and that was running at what, 2 million, 2.5 million or something?
Yeah, a few million.
Yeah.
3 million.
So there are a number of other teams, science and marine biosecurity, that do funding from it.
Yeah.
But our budget is pretty much stayed very consistent year
your
in, year out.
piece of that fee, because that fee covered a wide range of things. I remember looking at some of the
Drop in the bucket. What we're getting in comparison.
to the
It's got to be associated with.
yes, exactly.
Like
Yeah.
marine side of things.
So it would be useful to get the updated figures on that.
Sounds good.
My sense of this at the moment is that we should be quite open to doing more in this space. What I'm hearing is that there's some risks and some gaps, and that they cover things, including the origin of funding, and it's some vulnerability there to changes in shipping and revenue generated there, and that there may be some functions that we need to understand better how much unmet need, to Jeremy's point, or the we're not doing that we really should be. Or so for me, there's getting that clarity around what we're not doing that we absolutely need to be doing, and what we maybe could be doing that would support the outcomes that we've previously identified would be good to help further inform that.
Just on that point, I guess we can look at all tools associated with that. So, we can look at new revenue streams, such as if aquaculture becomes, more established in the region, then what portion should they be paying towards this activity, considering the area they operate within and the linkages around our feed and charges are up. One of the things is going to be one of the things that we work through as part of this LTP as well. So looking at what we need and how we fund these different elements is going to be part of that conversation moving forward. So necessarily saying let's change with the existing bucket. How can we look at all of the things going on and figure out the proportionality of repays?
Yeah, Marcus, we've really got to put seed capital in there, because there's no use waiting until we've got an aquaculture farm out there and then and then by then poor old Lyndon's worn to a shred, used his boat up, and we've got to start again. We've got to put a bit of seed in and make sure we get it right for when it happens. Because at the moment, what I can see up there is that all his resources are slowly winding down. And I would go the next step, and all the people are getting older.
Yeah, and it's the boots on the ground, and meanwhile there's still work in the office to do as well. So it's difficult.
Another critical part of that funding is that we have no control over how many cruise ships come in. The weather is cruel, and the market is cruel. So there is certainly a need for some alternative funding arrangements, and I certainly hope that the aquaculture part of things will contribute in some way.
Fabulous. I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the session, but hugely valuable conversation. We have got a whole bunch of other topics coming up on the 25th of June after. There'll be similar conversations across all the other different elements. So give you guys a bit of an education and update of where things are at and how things are shaping up. And then the subject matter experts can gain some of your thinking and knowledge and some of your comments and build that into our process. So
if they all follow that format.
Thought it was.
So it's back to its
Yeah,
preset level, right? Yeah.
Awesome. What I'll do is I'll do the closing karakia, unless there's any other comments or questions on the original side of things, and then we'll leave it to you afternoon. Unihia, ki te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia mama, kia kākau, kia tinana, kia wairoa, ai te ara tangata, koia rā e rongo, whakakare ake ki ronga, kia tina, kuie, tai kia.
Thanks.
Thank you. We grab some lunch and come back.
Yeah, if we can grab, we'll go through.